Welcome to the April 17th meeting of the Lake Forest City Council. Council members, please join us. We'll begin the public session with the invocation, and the invocation will be led by Iman Sameh from the Orange County Islamic Foundation. Okay. Iman is not here, and Mayor Pro Tem Basil, would you like to lead us in the invocation? Thank you.
I'll bow our heads, please. Father God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for everyone that's here. Thank you, God, for our First Amendment rights to free speech, and we can come here and say exactly how we feel about things. I pray, God, that each of us be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. I pray, God, that each of us, our speech be tempered with patience. And I pray, God, that you help us to have a healthy respect for one another, the council for the audience, and the audience for the council. Pray, God, that you preside over everything, and I pray that you keep the peace and help us to get through this night quickly and safely. In your precious name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. The next on the list is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I understand we have a Boy Scout here tonight, Scott Grayson Hammond. Scott, are you here? Okay.
He's coming.
Is he on the way? Okay, he's got an escort. Terrific. Okay, Scott, would you come to the podium and lead us in the pledge? Right here. Oh, Grayson, I'm sorry. Grayson.
Everyone, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a report from the closed session, the city attorney. Is there anything to report?
No items tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And next, we have our report from the student liaison. Here she is. Great. Sarah Dahlstrom from El Toro High School. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Sarah Dahlstrom here reporting to you on the past and upcoming events at El Toro High School. In sports news, our boys varsity baseball team defeated the Mission Viejo Diablos last Friday 3-1. Way to go, boys varsity baseball. Also, last week, our boys varsity lacrosse team defeated Aliso Viejo High School 5-3. Keep it up, boys. Last Thursday, our varsity girls softball team defeated our longtime rival Trabuco Hills 4-3. Way to go, Lady Chargers. In ASB news, prom is just around the corner. On June 2nd, our prom will take place at the Mission San Juan Capistrano. Ticket sales start in 2 weeks. The countdown to prom is on. In other ASB news, our dodgeball tournament is slowly coming to a close, with less than 10 teams remaining. Good luck to our Charger dodgeball teams. And finally, mark your calendars. Senior commencement is fast approaching. Our seniors' final day of school and graduation ceremony will take place June 14th. That's all I have for tonight. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great evening. And as always, go Chargers.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
As you can tell, we have quite a crowd here tonight. And in order to accommodate everyone, we have worked out some logistics to help the evening run a little bit more smoothly. First, we will proceed immediately to discuss Item 20, Senate Bill 54, California Values Act, submitted by the city attorney. Public comments on this item will be limited to 90 seconds per person because of the large number of people who want to speak. By the way, if you have one of those blue cards, please bring them up and hand them in now so you're able to speak. When you approach the podium, the light will be green. Then when you have 30 seconds remaining, the light will turn yellow. After 90 seconds, the light will turn red. There is no time remaining, and we ask that you conclude your statement. We will hear everyone that has submitted a comment card in the chamber. Then we will move on to those from the overflow area, if there is any overflow area. Tonight, unfortunately, we will not be hearing from the Facebook Live commenters because of the size of the crowd. The clerk will call 5 names at a time, and please queue up accordingly. Once we have heard all speakers and voted on the item, we will continue with regular city business according to the public agenda. I know that many of you are passionate about this issue on both sides, but I have to remind you that this is the business meeting of the city, and there are certain standards of behavior we expect you to adhere to. It's your right to be here, as the Mayor Pro Tem spoke out, for which we all appreciate, and to participate in the meeting. If you wish to speak, you'll be given the opportunity to do it, and I expect you to sit quietly and listen while people speak. If someone says something funny, you can certainly laugh, but if you don't agree with something, you should not call out. In fact, I would like you to imagine that you're in a courtroom and behave as you would in a courtroom. If you feel the urge to talk to your neighbor extensively, please go outside and then come back in, because if 50 or 60 people talk to their neighbors, we won't be able to hear what's going on. This isn't your living room. It's not a football game. To have a serious discussion, we need you to act seriously, because we want to listen carefully to what everyone has to say. Treat everyone with respect, and you'll be treated with respect. So we look forward to listening to you. There's nothing more important to the city than listening to our citizens. With that, Madam Clerk, please begin with the first 5 speakers.
Marian Woltman, followed by Kenny Sorgente, followed by Steve Augustine, followed by Jessamine Augustine.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Marian Woltman, and I've been a resident in this community since it was called El Toro. And I've seen a lot of growth and change. But one thing I've always believed about this community is that it was safe and that our elected officials wanted to keep it that way. On the Lake Forest website, it lists values for this city. And the first one is a community where people feel safe and can realize a higher quality of life. And this certainly is an important imperative for residents of this city. The recent decision by the state of California in making it a sanctuary state is in direct conflict to what the citizens of Lake Forest deserve. Protecting dangerous individuals from legal action is not what the hardworking and law-abiding citizens of this community or any California community deserve. Council members take an oath saying they bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States. Others in past council meetings have made excellent points as to the unconstitutionality of the sanctuary state laws. So I'm not going to go into the details of that, but I do agree with them. Allowing convicted criminals to be released into communities instead of taking constitutionally protected actions to detain and deport illegal criminals is not only an unconscionable and unnecessary...
Time's up. When the red light comes on, the time's up. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, welcome.
Hello, I am a current Mission Viejo resident and former Lake Forest resident. I grew up in Lake Forest, Kenny Strawn. And guess what high school I graduated from in 2011? That's right, I am a former El Toro Charger. In my current city, when they opted out, I made this speech. I'm going to replay it for you off YouTube.
So, I am going to make the case for opting out. It wasn't too long ago, in 2015 and early 2016, that I really didn't consider immigration too much of an issue. Back then, I was more of your run-of-the-mill Christian social conservative. Together, immigrants from Mexico and points south vote on average 60% in favor of big government social policies like welfare, and also vote for people who want taxpayers to foot the bill for their degenerate actions. Why? So they can keep lazily sleeping around while unmarried, lazily messing up the streets, and perhaps most degenerate of all, violently attacking, sometimes with deadly weapons, all who resist. Now again, that 60% figure is if you include legal immigration from Mexico, but what if you don't include it and just include illegal immigration alone? Drop legal immigration from that statistic, and this number jumps to around 90%. I've been to places where this has already happened. Back in February, I took a bus trip up to Santa Ana to see what an encampment of DACA-aged illegals looks like. And what I saw there, sleeping all over the parking lot of the library, shocked me. This was a common dress code in this encampment. They all had shaved heads.
Your time's up. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Thank you, Council. It's a pleasure to be here. I am a transplant from the Inland Empire. I'm a homeowner in Orange County. I fled to Orange County for sanctuary as an American citizen. In 2000, my ribs were broken. I was stabbed. My lip was split by someone here illegally from El Salvador. 2009, at my work, a restaurant bar, my lip was split with a punch from someone here illegally from Mexico. I've witnessed countless people that have been victims, especially since I've been participating and politically active. I know 2 females that were raped, one at 15 and one at 20, by illegals. I know people that have been run over by illegals, and their lives have been irreparably harmed. I've gone to Santa Ana personally and stepped in human feces. Santa Ana looks like a third world country to me now, and I don't want to live in a third world country. I want sanctuary. I came to Orange County, bought a home here, pay taxes in this county for a reason. I want a good life for my children. I don't want them to be shot at on their way to school. I was shot at on my way home from school when I was a young man at 15, riding my scooter. So I come to Orange County and I expect something in Orange County. You guys have sacred stewardship. We prayed. God has given you a task and a stewardship to take care of what's in your hands. And I beg you, do the right thing and take care of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, good evening. I am asking that you support the bill to opt out of the sanctuary state. I've been a resident of Orange County for well over 20 years now, and there are currently about 39 million people in California, and estimated 3 billion people worldwide that could be claimed to be living in poverty. So no one ever says, at what point is enough? At what point are we going to say, no more, we can't take it anymore? I've been to Santa Ana, I've seen the encampments, I've seen the trails. It is scary, and the crime and everything that is coming, we need to take a stand against it. And supporting this bill will be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I am so grateful to all the good decisions made by Orange County leadership to follow laws and create this paradise that we live in. I live right next door in Mission Viejo. It is lovely, and it's because we pay attention to the laws, and we need to, I support opting out of SB 54 because it's not about not being kind. It's about following the law and allowing our hardworking first responders to follow through with their arrests and things. Thank you.
Thank you. Next 5, Madam Clerk.
Paul Jansen, Linda Yergin, followed by Celia Young, followed by Andrea Alexander, followed by Reverend Kent Doss.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Paul Jansen. I'm a 27-year Orange County resident, 18-year Laguna Hills homeowner. In the Gettysburg Address, Abraham Lincoln said, "A government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from this earth." However, Governor Brown and his cronies are passing laws that only benefit themselves. The public was not allowed to vote on SB 54. I'm going to list some statistics from an article in the National Review dated January 20th of this year, written by Peter Kirsanow. He's an attorney and a member of the United States Commission on Civil Rights, quoting U.S. General Accounting Office figures from 2009, which was the most current stats he had. 28,000 illegals are incarcerated in California, and $75,000 per year to house an inmate. That's $2.1 billion annually. The Department of Justice reimburses the state 70%, so that's still $1.47 billion that's coming out of our budget. And surely that money can be better spent for our roads, for our homeless. How many more murders like Kate Steinle do we need? Illegal immigration, sanctuary policies encourage illegal immigration. Please join the federal lawsuit and support the Orange County supervisors and numerous other cities and against Jerry Brown in Sacramento. Restore law and order, report and deport these illegals. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, the City Council members. I'm here to support the Lake Forest Citizens Amendment to the resolution on SB 54. It removes language, you will be hearing about this in a little bit, but it removes language about Los Alamitos and most language about SB 54. It makes a resolution about Lake Forest supporting the rule of law.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, my name is Celia Young. I go to church here, so I think it's very important for me to be here. I want to talk about one thing. That's the number one issue is around safety. You know, one job the police force wants to do is to keep communities safe. However, the way to do it, most police will agree, is to build trust in the community, especially in the immigrant community. Many immigrants who come to this country come from land that they couldn't trust the police. So police need to build the trust. Well, guess what? One day, all of a sudden, the police became immigration agent, which just totally destroyed the trust. So what's the consequence of it is a lot of crimes will be actually underreported or not reported at all. So we actually, as a resident here, couldn't even feel safe, for that matter. Second thing is, I'm an immigrant myself. America represents to me is a beacon of freedom. And we're supposed to be the one who says, give us the tired, the poor, the huddled masses. We're supposed to have big heart and big open arms. And I don't want this country to become country of hate and fear. And FDR said that, said the only fear we have is fear for itself. I want to appeal to all of our humanity to let people feel safe and let be friends and be neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Hi, Andrea Alexander. First of all, I'd like to thank Leah Bazell for her endorsement of Mary Navarro for Orange County Department of Ed. Thank you. My argument is in favor of SB 54, and I'm going to take a centrist point of view because the humanitarian argument has escaped everyone's conscience slightly. I'm asking that you look at the financial burden in opposing SB 54. We'll have to provide personnel to handle the undocumented, to provide a detention facility and manage that facility. The burden will be on us. The federal government doesn't have the money. We will lose vital services. Just an example of how everyone recently is assuming that because you're undocumented, you're a criminal. I had an electrician come to my house. He did a wonderful job, and as he was leaving, I handed him materials so he'd vote for Mary Navarro for Orange County Department of Ed, and he said he couldn't. And I said, well, I have a voter registration form in the car if you need that, and he said no, he couldn't. And then he explained to me he'd been in this country illegally for 12 years. He overstayed his visa. He did a wonderful job. He completed the work in a timely manner and in a reasonable, and the cost was reasonable. He also has a family, 2 children, and a brother that he supports. If we deport this man, what happens to his family? They become a burden, a financial burden. One other thing, we profess to be Christians.
Time's up.
Christ wouldn't deport.
Time's up. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kent Doss. I'm a Lake Forest homeowner, and I am the minister of one of the churches here in town. It's interesting to see so much interest from our neighbors in the city of Lake Forest that I've never seen before. One of the things I wanted to mention, actually there are 1,000 things that I wanted to mention, but I'll try to get to the point. I felt like I had to be here tonight to just be clear that I love my neighbors, even those who are from a different country and even those who don't have that all-important piece of paper in their hands. I understand that there are a lot of strong feelings here tonight, senses of fear about crime and violent crime. It's important that we keep in mind the fact that SB 54 has very little impact on the way law enforcement deals with serious felonies or violent felonies. Those get turned over to ICE. I'm not making this up. This is the law, I promise. I also wanted to mention that the goal of the bill is not just about law enforcement. It's also about schools, hospitals, libraries, and courts. I believe that our neighborhoods are safer, are better when people are educated and when they're healthy. I believe that people have a right to information that they can get through our libraries and that they have a right to justice through our courts, regardless of who they are. We're all better off when our neighbors are educated and healthy. Thank you.
Time's up. Thank you. Next 5, Madam Clerk. And thank you all for staying within the 90 seconds. I appreciate it.
Okay, Bill Rogers, followed by Ursula Anna, followed by Cheryl Hagan, followed by Vivian Freericks, followed by Trina Maggione.
Come on up. Welcome.
I'd like to urge the council not to join in any action, either endorsing or actively supporting the veto or repeal of SB 54. Many of the other speakers tonight have already referenced things, so I just want to cut to one thing that I think we should all know about who supported and started the movement to veto SB 54. That would be a group called the Federation for American Immigration Reform, that's FAIR, F-A-I-R, a group that's been identified by the Southern Poverty Law Center since 2008 as a hate group. FAIR has spent over $11 million against DACA, DAPA, and even the Enlist Act, which earns citizenship for military service. In 2007, FAIR ran a successful campaign against George Bush's immigration reform proposal, which included a path to citizenship. FAIR's founder, John Tanton, claims that unless Latino immigration is stifled, it will lead to economic, racial, religious, and linguistic apartheid. Think of that as segregation on steroids. And then there's the current FAIR president, Dan Stein, who claims that immigrants engage in, quote, competitive breeding aimed at diminishing white power. So if you'd like to know more about FAIR, go to the Southern Poverty Law Center's website. That's splcenter.org. Now, one more thing. You probably know about the California Sanctuary State Law Veto Referendum Act. Well, they needed 365,880 signatures to get that on the ballot for November 8th, and they couldn't even get that. The citizens of California don't want this, and neither should anyone else.
Hey, don't call out. This is a public meeting. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Cheryl Hagan. I'm a 30-year resident of Lake Forest, a 35-plus year elementary school teacher, as well as a small business owner. 30 years ago, my husband and I made a conscious choice to buy our home here in Lake Forest because we appreciated the diversity that we felt Lake Forest afforded us. I think the decision that you're being asked to make here tonight isn't about our immigration system or how to fix it. That's an incredibly complex problem that if we easily handled, it would have been. What I sincerely believe is that we and you as our elected representatives have the ability to speak to the character of our city. What kind of a city do we want to be, and how do we want to be known? Do we want to give into the unsubstantiated belief that undocumented friends and neighbors cause an increase in crime, are somehow endangering us, thusly taking the side of prejudice and fear, or do we want to take the side of compassion, recognizing that we are who we are, partly because of what we personally achieved, but mostly because of the privilege of to whom and where we were born? As a citizen, I want my tax dollars to be spent on educating children, having them in my classroom ready to learn, not preoccupied about where their second backpack containing their personal items are, or where or who is going to be at home when they get there. I want my law enforcement dollars to be spent on protecting us from real threats,
Time's
real
up.
danger, rather than on doing the work of immigration.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, my name is Vivian Ferrix. My family has lived here for, 35 years now. I've raised a son here. He's off in college. Very proud. Love living in this community. But I've already, just the few minutes we've been here tonight together, I've already heard immigrants blamed for feces. I've heard them blamed for getting in the way of our first responders. I've heard them blamed for crimes of all types. So I'm going to take my remaining 90 seconds to tell you about a couple of immigrants. Their names are Ruperto and Juanita Ornelas. They came to California in the early 1900s from Mexico. They're my grandparents. They raised 9 children, 7 boys, 2 girls. One of those girls was my mom. All 7 of those boys fought for our country in the military service overseas in foreign wars. Okay, so since then, of course, you can imagine they have lots of grandchildren by now and lots of great-grandchildren. They have, I can't even count how many doctors and lawyers we have in our family. I have a cousin who's an emergency room doctor. One of your family members could be saved by my cousin who's here because of Roberto and Juanita Ornelas, who came from Mexico. I even have a veterinary niece who's a veterinarian. You might take your dog to my veterinarian niece. Okay, so immigrants they're not responsible for the feces. They're not responsible for getting in the way of our first responders. They are me. Okay? They are you. We're all immigrants. Thank you, sir. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Trina Mangione. I've met a number of you when you have come to my middle school right here in Lake Forest, where I've taught for 22 years. One thing I am sure to teach my students is how to evaluate a source, how to look beyond words, and how to infer implied meanings. According to the Orange County Register in an article published March 22nd, the amicus brief of item 20 has been, quote, spurred by a request from a group called the Immigration Reform Law Institute, which is affiliated with the Federation for American Immigration Reform, an anti-illegal immigration organization. And the article then provided this quote, we're lining up cities to join us with amicus briefs. I decided I'd better practice what I preach. And I looked up these groups, and I found the same results. The Southern Poverty Law Center, which has committed itself to seeking justice and fighting intolerance, identifies FAIR as an anti-immigration hate group. Not only that, but the Anti-Defamation League traced the funding of this group to a man it calls racist and connected it to what they called anti-Hispanic hate groups. I was appalled by what I'd found. Council members, you have been to my school. You have seen the diversity of our student body. What you do today speaks volumes to them about what you, their local government, believes. Please listen carefully to the voices of those here in Lake Forest who really work here, really live here, and are really committed for decades to this city.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next 5, Madam Clerk.
Okay, Jeff Gothard, Gerald Volomino Jr., followed by Lauren Austin, followed by Danielle Serbin, followed by Steve Serra. And if you would please state your name before you begin to speak, just so I keep everybody in order.
Thank you for taking time to listen to us. My name
Welcome.
is Jeff Gothard, and I'm a taxpayer, homeowner, small business owner, living in Lake Forest since 1995. I feel that our country's been built by the hard work of immigrants, although I'm not one. Throughout our history, building cities, fighting against our enemies, picking the food that we eat at our tables, and working on our homes and all through our city. I also work in schools with immigrant children and see how they're becoming proud to be Americans as much as I am. I support leaving SB 54 as it stands because our excellent safety officers, law enforcement, and community support systems have more important things to do than doing the work of the federal authorities. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Jerry Volomino. I was a resident of Lake Forest for about 7 to 8 years, then moved across a street or two into Mission Viejo. What made America great was not only immigration, but the concept of e pluribus unum. In other words, assimilation. It was not the oxymoron, our strength is in our diversity. Diversity, if you break down the roots, means to divide, which is the Democrats' ultimate goal. Divide us into groups and warring camps that they can then bring in as many third worlders as they can to buy their votes with the entitlement system. What I would like to ask you tonight, I haven't read the proposal, I know basically what it's about. In Mission Viejo, the Mission Viejo City Council sort of wimped their way through it. They didn't join the lawsuit, they didn't offer to submit an amicus brief. All they did basically was send a letter to, where is it, down there, Los Alamitos, saying, attaboy, guys, keep it up. I would like you to join Jeff Sessions' federal lawsuit. I would like you to submit an amicus brief, and I would like you to follow the rule of law. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, Lauren Austin. I'm here today to urge you to support SB 54. Now, I could appeal to your decency and compassion, but to oppose SB 54 demonstrates the overwhelming and appalling lack of such qualities, and I fear it would be a waste of my effort and everyone's time. Or perhaps I could point out how highly SB 54 is valued right here in Orange County. According to a new Chapman University research poll of Orange County public opinion released just this month, 71% of respondents believe our diversity is a source of strength. 78% support DACA, and 83% want a way for undocumented residents to stay right here in Orange County. Given the ardent local support of SB 54, I submit that any suggestion or claim that the people of Orange County support this abhorrent opt-out effort is baseless and factually inept. I think particularly pertinent to this issue, and sadly the most compelling reason you should heed my request, is the reality of why you are all council members. You are elected by your constituents, by us. How confident are you that the angry instigators seen and heard at city council meetings up and down Southern California are voting members of your district? Their fleeting presence here is a blip in time, and should you go forward with them and away from us and SB 54, then your time as council members will also be just that, a blip in time.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Danielle Serban. I'm a homeowner here in Lake Forest and a 2005 graduate of El Toro High School. Go Chargers. As you know, SB 54 is a highly contentious political issue. A lot of people who live in Lake Forest, like myself, do not want our city to get in the middle of this contentious political fight between the federal government and the state government. We do, however, support the rule of law. So if the City Council wishes to reaffirm its commitment to the rule of law, I've made some proposed amendments that do just that. I've called it the citizens' proposal. I read the resolution and I made some amendments. The amendments leave in all the language about supporting the rule of law and support the health and welfare and safety of the public, and that the U.S. Constitution is supreme, because it is. It removes any language, however, about Los Alamitos, and also says that the issue of SB 54 and whether it violates the Constitution is a matter that will be decided by the courts. Now, that's true, too. It's not for me or you to decide whether SB 54 is legal. That's for the courts. I believe that the amended resolution better reflects the values of this city. It does that. It doesn't waste the time of delving into a purely political issue, and that really, at the end of the day, doesn't have anything to do with Lake Forest, and that will be decided by the courts, and yet it still reaffirms our city's commitment to the rule of law and the U.S. Constitution. If you would like to see the proposed amendment, I'm happy. I have copies for you. Thank you.
So you brought copies for us. Can you pass them, please, to the gentleman over the front?
Just a note, if you have documents like that in the future and you want us to read them, if you send them earlier, we can read them before the meeting. It's a little tough to, on the fly, read things. If you submit them ahead of time, as some people do, we get them ahead of time, we're able to study them. Anyhow.
And please, if you have documents like that, pass it over to Brett Channing's over at the corner of the table.
Yeah, a good point. If you have something now that you'd like us to read, we could do that now. Welcome. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Steve Serra, Mission Viejo. Following this issue, I hear a lot of talk. People seem to have the attitude in many cases that if enforcing the law creates fear, we shouldn't enforce the law, and particularly if children are in fear because their parents broke the law and are in jeopardy. the Bible does talk on this subject in a way. Romans chapter 13, let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, he who resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of him who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval, for he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain. He is the servant of God to execute his wrath on the wrongdoer. Now, a lot of people don't seem to know also, this is what Sheriff Hutchins said in her March 3, 2017 letter to Pat Bates, Senator Bates. As we patrol our communities, deputies are focused on criminal violations of state and local law. In carrying out our duties, we do not ask the immigration status of suspects, witnesses, or those who call to report crimes. Now, you just have to publicize this, and people will be less fearful about reporting crimes and being witnesses and such. Slightly different section, subject.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Sorry. Madam Clerk, could you call the next 5? I know it's hard to get it all in 90 seconds, and I appreciate that many of you are able to do that, and thank you.
And thank you for being respectful. Greg Black, followed by Barb Daly, followed by Dee Dee Dominguez, followed by Beverly Welch, followed by Beverly Huff.
Welcome.
Welcome, Council. My name is Greg Black. I'm a resident of Lake Forest. I've been a resident for the last 3 years. I've been a resident of Orange County for about the last 18 years. I moved here from Phoenix, and I can honestly tell you I was glad to have left Phoenix, having seen what happened there with the onslaught of illegal immigration. I hope the Council has enough forward knowledge, enough wisdom to continue and put this Senate Bill 54 to rest. I don't think it's beneficial for the Council to let it go unchecked. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, Council. My name is Barb Daly. I live and work in Lake Forest. I'm a member of a church in Lake Forest. I own a home in Lake Forest. I spend a lot of time in Lake Forest. And I want to be proud of Lake Forest. I want to continue to be proud of Lake Forest. Immigration is one of our most polarizing issues. I'm worried about these divisions and worried for the non-citizens I've gotten to know. Fortunately, SB 54 takes a critical step forward by protecting the safety of all Lake Forest residents, regardless of immigration status. By limiting state and local enforcement communication with federal immigration enforcement, we are all safer. Rather than join in the hate-filled rhetoric and agendas that surround us today, I want Lake Forest to be bold and establish itself as a community that supports non-citizens. The spirits of Orange County's racist past cast a long shadow. We can change that and be on the right side of history.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Dee Dee Dominguez, and I am a resident of Aliso Viejo. I would like to speak about public safety. Governor Jerry Brown and his sidekick Kevin DeLeon are trying to impose this unconstitutional bill which prevents the use of state and local public resources to aid federal immigration and ICE agents in deportation actions. Despite what the bleeding hearts will say tonight, illegal aliens account for crimes such as sex trafficking, domestic violence, assault, theft, robbery, DUI, and homicide. We aren't talking about the nannies and housekeepers. We're talking about illegal career criminals. I'm sorry, my phone's going off. No resources will be taken away from the city if you file the amicus brief. However, if the city does not comply with the federal law, federal grants to fund community services and street improvements will be compromised. Supporting SB 54 puts our law enforcement, residents of Lake Forest, and surrounding cities, counties, and state in harm's way. SB 54 serves only one community, the illegal alien perpetrators of crime. Those who advocate sanctuary cities and states are betraying the American people. And in closing, I would like to mention that San Diego County supervisors voted 3-1 in filing the amicus brief this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. My name is Beverly Welch. Immigration, I think a lot of people are forgetting to understand, is a process by which an individual follows laws and meets requirements to enter into another country. Illegal aliens are not immigrants. I personally am a victim of a repeat illegal offender. While driving my 4th grade daughter to school at 7:50 a.m., a drunk illegal alien ran a stop sign, pushed my van 15 feet. I was ejected from the vehicle, but I will never forget the sound of my daughter's head hitting the windshield, ever. My husband, my parents, my brother, and my children all say they will never forget the sight of me lying on the pavement with my dress above my head. I tell you this so that you understand, it doesn't just affect your city. 3 citizens chased this man through 3 separate cities before he was cornered and arrested. He served 90 days in jail, left to go out, presumably to commit another crime. I was not able to work for 6 months. It took years to recover financially from this incident. Just like the 10 Commandments are not suggestions, the United States federal laws are the supreme laws of this land. You have sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. We expect you to protect us from this domestic threat in Sacramento and do your damn job. God bless America.
Okay, keep it down. It's not a football game. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Beverly Huff. I'm a 38 resident of Lake Forest, not just Orange County. I'm going to share tonight some personal experience I have with immigrants in Lake Forest. I have an opportunity to visit undocumented immigrants in detention at James A. Music. It's about 10 minutes away from here. They're just friendly visits. We just talk about families and hobbies and our hopes for the future. I met with a woman from El Salvador, a guy from Nepal, a couple of guys from Ghana, a couple of guys from Pakistan. I can tell you these undocumented immigrants are no different from the rest of us. There are some that I would want to have a friend outside of detention, and others I don't care to keep the relationship going. Either way, I've learned a lot about what drove them to the United States and why they did not wait in line. For many, there's no line to wait in. If you're poor, unskilled, and trying to grow your own food, as is the case in parts of Africa, the climate change has brought on famine in your area. You can't take care of your family anymore. You do what's necessary. You leave the country for a brighter future for your wife and kids. Which of you wouldn't do the same? We do not let these people either legally into the country. It's
Time's
called
up.
economic hardship.
Time's up. Thank you. Madam Clerk, next 5.
Julia Rampone, followed by Benjamin Garcia, followed by Liz Baer, by Bill LaFave, followed by Randy Johnson.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hello. My name is Julia Rampone, and I'm president of the Board of Trustees of a church here in Lake Forest. All Californians deserve to be treated fairly by law enforcement, no matter their background, what they look like, or where they were born. Until and unless our country adopts immigration reform that allows millions of hardworking members of our communities to come out of the shadows, counties should not engage in the business of immigration enforcement. SB 54 helps make our schools, hospitals, courthouses, and libraries safe spaces for everyone in our community. We do not need immigrant families spaces. After all, every single one of us is the descendant of an immigrant. Right now, the federal government is persecuting immigrants and pressuring local law enforcement to help deport millions of people. When local police and sheriff act as deportation agents, that further undermines trust and confidence in law enforcement. We need the immigrant community to trust local law enforcement, not live in fear that they will work with ICE. I ask you, therefore, to support SB 54 to make Lake Forest the type of community we all want to live in.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you very much, Mayor, council members, esteemed staff. Thank you for this opportunity. All this touchy-feely stuff is real good and fine, all right? But you all, just like these law enforcement officers, I have too taken an oath of office to uphold and defend the Constitution of these United States. To one step further, I put my life on the line with numerous different agencies to do such. Many of you don't realize it, but this officer right here has stripes on his pants which indicate that he's a motor officer and makes a lot of traffic stops. At any given time, he can make a traffic stop and his life is in danger, just like each and every other law enforcement officer that leaves their house every night. And it depends on you, the board of legislators, to enforce our constitutional provisions that we've put our lives on the line for. I supported the immigrants that came here after the Vietnam War that were camped out in military tents along the I-5 freeway. I was the first Hispanic to do such as a result of request by then State Senator Ed Royce and now Congressman Ed Royce. And they did it properly. They were refugees and we helped them. I ask you to abide by your oath. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Liz Bear. My grandfather was born in Orange County, and I have been a Lake Forest homeowner since 1995. When my first child was born, we looked for a babysitter. No one answered our ads for help. We were looking for someone who was bilingual, had an interest in the arts, and was willing to work for what we could pay. Then Norma came into our lives. She is patient, kind, fluent in 3 languages, loves art, and a special way with children. She had to flee her country because of the violence in her town. She was 12 at the time. As an adult, she has paid taxes and ultimately became a citizen. My 3 children have been forever changed by the kindness, love, and care shown to them by Norma. But Norman isn't the only one. All of my children have attended schools, participated in dance classes, Little League, and attended church in Lake Forest. Their childhood experiences were enriched by meeting a wonderfully diverse group of kids from all over the world. As a result of those relationships, my children will be more prepared to take their place in our global economy and have compassion for people who do not look or speak like them. I ask you to not withdraw from SB 54 because of senseless fear about what those people, quote, might do. My grandfather's father was an immigrant, and I am proud of my farming heritage. Undocumented immigrants living in sanctuary cities are contributing vital members of our society who bring not only economic benefit, but even more importantly, bonds of friendship. I believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, won't you? Please keep Lake Forest open to support those who have come from other countries. They make our community stronger. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. Bill LaFave. We have a sheriff's department that works hard to protect us and keep us safe, and they do a very good job of that. I think the crime statistics for Lake Forest bear out that we want to keep things that way so that our families can grow and prosper in a safe environment. To tie the hands of our police department in protecting us from people who would do us harm and have done some harm to our society is denying us the protection that we need, expect, and deserve. It's important to point out that the Orange County Undersheriff has made the following quote: "The Orange County Sheriff's Department, whose leadership opposes the new California sanctuary law that limits cooperation with federal immigration officials, announced Monday that it is now providing public information on when inmates are released from custody." This is in response to SB 54 limiting our ability to communicate with federal authorities and our concern that criminals are being released to the streets when there's another avenue to safeguard our community by handing them over to the proper authorities. I and almost everyone I know thinks that the so-called California Values Act does not represent the values of California, nor does it represent what we want for our families, our state, and our community. We believe in the law and the upholding of our laws, especially the Constitution and our immigration laws.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Well, good evening, Council. You know me, Randy Johnson, 20-year resident of Lake Forest. And let's have something sink in right here and now. Your ultimate responsibility and obligation to the citizens of Lake Forest is to keep us safe. That's your ultimate responsibility to us, all right? Now, Orange County and 10 Orange County cities have joined the fight to oppose SB 54, a law that protects illegal foreigners convicted of crimes against the state, unrelated to immigration violations, by releasing these foreign criminals back into our neighborhoods without cooperating with federal immigration authorities in form of pre-notification, allowing ICE to take them into custody in a secured environment. This puts our ICE agents at danger. They have to go hunt these criminals down in the neighborhoods in their own environments. Okay? And also, a spokesman from Orange County Sheriff's Department, Carrie Braun, said that from January 1st to March 19th, the agency released 172 inmates in the country illegally into the community because state law prohibited authorities from notifying ICE. When you take that forward, that means 700 illegal foreigners each year will be released into our community who are convicted of crimes from DUI to burglary to theft to sales, possession, and use of dangerous drugs, which would be released into our neighborhoods this year at great risk to our citizens. All right? So, millions of American men and women in the armed forces have spilled their blood, sacrificed their lives to keep our country safe and our borders secure.
Time's up. Thank you.
Respect them.
Madam Clerk, next 5.
Richard Palmer, followed by Lucy Scheiman, followed by Megan Holland, followed by Marjorie Carlson, followed by Nikki Soltero.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. My name is Richard Palmer. I live in Laguna Woods. I couldn't go there because we don't have a jail. So this is the closest place I can come to voice my complaint. I can only think of one thing. Kate Steinle. She was a beautiful young woman who was killed by an illegal alien. Now, he was guilty of the law, which is contrary to what a lot of people here think it is. We have to be very careful who we allow to stay in this country. My parents were immigrants from Europe, but the first thing they did was to get their citizenship. I don't see that happening here in this country today. Anyway,
let's refrain from whooping and yaying and etc. Again, it's not a football.
Anyway, I'm a veteran of the Korean War, and the work I did there was to defend the Constitution. And that's what I've done since 1953, when I came to California. I raised 7 children, and they too are defending the Constitution. All I ask you to do is the same. Defend the Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Lucy Scheiman. I live in Laguna Woods. And again, as Mr. Palmer said, we don't have a jail in our town. So, as a neighbor, I don't want your people who might flop over. We have a lot. We in Laguna Woods have all kinds of people, all races, religions, everything. And it's a very nice place. The people are fine, but we don't want people who don't respect the Constitution and the laws of this country. When I was working for the state as a person in the unemployment office in 1962, the people that came who were foreigners and probably illegal at the time, where I worked with Mexican nationals who had been in this country for 30 years and could barely speak English. Things aren't that way anymore, thank goodness. But what we need is people who want to be here. I guess that's universal, but people who want to stay here and want to contribute.
Thank you. For Lucy and Richard, we don't have a jail in our town either, and nobody flops from the jail that we don't have. The jail, Music Jail, is on county land, but it's not in our city. Anyhow, welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Megan Holland. I am an Orange County resident for the last 3 years. My husband's company has offices here in Lake Forest, and some of my best friends live just down the road. On a weekly basis, when we go to their house, they encourage us to move here to your great city, something we're seriously considering. I grew up in a small, wealthy, and conservative town in Florida, very similar to Lake Forest and many Orange County cities. Most of my classmates looked like me, and as I grew older and went into middle school and high school, the diversity increased. Unfortunately, some of the parents didn't like that diversity, and they opened up a charter school, which resulted in the student body changing and going back to many white students. I love my hometown, but I was ashamed of these actions. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I want her to grow up in an area that promotes immigration, that doesn't teach bigotry and fear. In the back of the room, the bulletin board says, "Be kind, because you will never know how much the person beside you is suffering." All Californians deserve to be treated fairly by law enforcement, no matter their background, what they look like, or where they were born. I urge you to support SB 54 and vote against Agenda Item 20.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Marjorie Carlson, and I'm a resident and homeowner in Lake Forest. I have 3 children who walk to Mission Viejo to school every day, to Trabuco High School. So, not El Toro.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We like the Mustangs, too.
Oh, good, good. And I think they like you. It would be nice for them to be here once in a while. Now, I haven't lived in Lake Forest long, but I must say that I love it here. I love this. I really enjoy my neighbors, and I enjoy this town. I was shocked last year walking my dog in my park to find swastikas drawn on the sidewalk. I reported it to the police. They came out. It got washed away. But we don't need that attitude here. We have had a murder here in Lake Forest, and it wasn't by an immigrant. It was by a member of the alt-right, by an avowed Nazi who came all the way from Newport Beach. He was not an immigrant. We've said today, we've had people say today, blaming immigrants for crime, pushing fear, and pushing hate. We don't need hate. We don't need fear. Immigrants are human, and they deserve our police protection just like everyone else. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Socrates once said, when debate is lost, slander becomes the tool of the loser. And that's why you hear the divisive language, calling defenders of our country's sovereignty bigots. Because the effects of a porous border and the dismissing of federal immigration laws cannot be argued. California pays over $23 billion annually for the care of illegals and their dependents. Nationwide, they are 3.5% of the U.S. population, but 37% of federal sentences. In California, they are 7% of the population, and even with a very lenient criminal justice system, they are 12% of the state prison population. We are the state with the highest illegal immigration population. We have the highest poverty level and the highest tax rates. we are also $1.3 trillion in debt. Our immigration system is not racist and is not partisan. These immigration laws were passed by a bipartisan Congress with no race in mind. In fact, no new immigration law has been passed during the Trump administration. If you don't like the laws and are a lawful citizen, take appropriate action to change the laws you deem unfair through legislative process. Those of us who are legally able to vote will decide. That's the power given to the citizens of this country. Keyword citizens. Laws of this country should never be enacted to benefit a foreign national at the expense of the welfare of the citizen. The federal government is not asking the local police departments to act as ICE agents.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next 5.
Okay, Nikki Soltero, followed by Ursula Yeager, followed by David Carter, followed by Bernie Esposito, followed by Vincent Burke.
Madam Clerk, I believe we already heard from Nikki Soltero. She was the last.
I apologize. Vincent Burke, followed by Jesse S. Ursula Yeager.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Ursula Yeager. I'm a 15-year resident of Irvine. I first of all wanted to address the people in the audience who are seem to be having a problem with the fact that if you don't live in Lake Forest, you don't have a voice in here, which I think is kind of ironic since they're more willing to listen to the voices of non-citizens over people who live right down the street. Anyway, if they want to see what the actual law is, you can look up something called the Brown Act. You can Google it very easy. It says that we actually do have the right to be here if we're a citizen of California. So I just wanted to get that out there first. I'm also not only speaking for myself, but I'm speaking for thousands of other people who are in different groups that I'm a part of. Family America Project, Deplorable Women of California, Californians for Trump, Recovering Democrat, Los Angeles County for Trump, Taking Back America SoCal. These are all citizens of the state who all have a concern for what's happening here, and I'm speaking for them. I wanted to address a couple arguments really quick as far as what I've heard some council members say, reasons why they didn't want to opt out of SB 54. One of them, they said that it was because as a general law city, they have to follow state law. I don't know if you guys are general law or charter. Your charter? General law. Okay, well, this applies to you then. That actually isn't true because I'm sure, as you guys know, federal law always trumps state law. So the fact that SB 54 was put into effect.
Wait, your time's up.
Okay, thank you. I think you know what I'm saying.
And Ursula, we do welcome all speakers from throughout the county. So everybody's welcome. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you.
And Dave Carter's always welcome.
Oh, thank you. Dave Carter, I'm a 35-year resident of Lake Forest. The overall issue to me is that I think the Senate bill in itself is in violation of the state constitution in that it is not in compliance with the constitutional Article 3 of the state of California, Section 1. That states the state of California is an inseparable part of the United States of America, and the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Each of us, myself being a commissioner and having other obligations, we've taken an oath to support both the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California. If one has been violated, then we owe it to stand up against that violation. So I am fully in support of the resolution going forward.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Bernie Esposito. I'm a 15-year resident of Lake Forest. And I'd just like to comment on illegal immigration versus legal immigration. My mother came here from Italy with my grandmother. They came through Ellis Island. They immigrated to this country legally. As far as I know, none of our immigration laws examine skin color, sexual orientation, or any type of discriminatory thing such as that. we have a set of laws. I'm a retired law enforcement officer, and I certainly believe in the rule of law. And when Mr. Becerra, our state attorney general, starts threatening people and organizations and companies with prosecuting them under the law for cooperating with the federal government and upholding the Constitution, I wonder what law he's talking about. I certainly couldn't find one. So it appears to me that maybe he's just blowing a lot of smoke and trying to bully a lot of people. And when we offer sanctuary, when we talk about sanctuary, we're including a lot of people in that group. So I wonder how our state government tends to offer sanctuary to people like MS-13 gang members. I don't see that it's really possible if you've got a broad brush with sanctuary. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Vincent Burke, Lake Forest. You've heard the term immigrant thrown around here quite a bit this evening. The thrust of SB 54, is it for the protection of legal, lawful immigrants, or for the protection of illegal immigrants, illegal aliens? I've worked in the electroplating industry for over 30 years now, and I can certainly tell you that the vast majority of the line workers are Hispanic, are mostly Mexican, and they do hard work. They really do. I got to hand it to them. Most are legal, some are in the country illegally. Okay. I just came back from a weekend on the U.S.-Mexico border, and I've been doing this for the past 12 years. I've been out there at 3 a.m. where 20 people will cross that border, barbed wire, in the middle of the night. I've been out there where a team of 5 drug runners will cross that fence, that 10-foot fence, no time at all, and head in my direction. Let me tell you, that's unnerving. But this is what we get when we have this open border mentality, open border policy, and America's a great place. I can understand why people want to come here from all over the world. We allow 1 million to come in every year. My time is up. I wish I could say more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. My name is Jesse, and I was born in Mexico, and I came here legally. My mom and dad came here legally. My uncles came here legally, and they also served in the armed forces. So there is legal immigration here, not illegal immigration here. And it's funny for me to hear some of these people talk for sanctuary cities, because apparently they did not grow up in Huntington Park or El Sereno like I did. Illegal aliens kill about 13 to 20 people a day via drunk driving. That adds up to about 7,000 or so a year. Since 9/11, it's probably close to 40,000 Americans that have been killed by illegal aliens. So for these people to say sanctuary cities are safe is comical to me. As a Latino, I know. I worry about my parents because they live in the city of La Puente, was predominantly Latino, and there's illegal aliens there, and it worries me. So it's just comical to me to hear these people speak about sanctuary cities and they know nothing about the neighborhoods like I do, because I grew up in the neighborhood. So no to SB 54, and I'm a legal Latino from Mexico.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next 5.
Sunny Mager, followed by Anna, followed by Anna Clemente, followed by Greg Suska, followed by Kim Kimberly.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor and Council members, for giving this opportunity. Myself, Sunny Meager. I live here in Orange County, and I'm a legal immigrant from India. Came to United States to pursue my American dream. I'm here to encourage the City Council of Lake Forest to officially oppose the illegal sanctuary state law which Governor Brown has passed. The reason why I'm saying to reject the sanctuary state law, it's because it's not fair for people like us. I had to do a lot of paperwork to study and stay here in this country. because illegal immigrants cross the borders illegally, and I don't understand how they get all the state benefits, which includes driving license, food stamps, social security number, and Medicare. There are some illegal immigrants who say that they even pay taxes. But my question is, how can they pay taxes when you don't have legal documents and SSN number? Let me go in the history. In 18th century, President Andrew Jackson, the founder of the Democratic Party, had slaves and plantations. Today, the Democratic Party of California has slaves and plantations. These plantations are called as sanctuary cities and sanctuary state. It is like, I will give you the citizenship and benefits, you vote for me. This is an open theft, and it is a form of slavery, and this is how the Democrats control California. Instead of spending billions of dollars on illegal immigrants, let's invest and help black community in America, because African American people are treated very unfair from early democratic plantations till today's democratic rule in California. Yes, America is the country of immigrants, but it is also the country of laws too. Everyone are welcome to United States, but you need to come here legally. I finally encourage the city of Lake Forest to oppose SB 54 and help American citizens and legal immigrants like me to save from illegal criminals. Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm from Los Alamitos, and I'm very proud of the city because they passed the ordinance last night to go against SB 54. It's unconstitutional. It's not about immigration reform. It's about illegal aliens that broke into our country, then they committed crimes, then they got arrested. SB 54 wants these criminals to return to our streets. SB 54 creates severe public safety problems by limiting the ability of a local law enforcement agency to work with the federal law enforcement. These involve crimes such as human trafficking, smuggling, and narcotic trafficking by drug cartels. We have to enforce these laws. We don't get to pick and choose these laws. The Constitution, Article 6, Clause 2, it says that the federal law preempts the state law. I am asking that the city council members of Lake Forest please uphold your oath to the Constitution and vote for this ordinance that supports our Constitution. It helps to protect the police officers and the citizens of the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. My name is Ana Clemente. I'm sorry, I don't like the public speaking, but I am here to say, like, what I heard is like kind of unfair for me because they are saying stats which could be true, but there are also like a lot of not Hispanic people that they have been doing criminal. They are criminals, right? I was rear-ended by a person that was not Hispanic. So I think that not only illegal immigrants are criminals or are drug dealers. We are people that are hard worker. I've been living on Lake Forest for 10 years, and I'm a citizen here. So, but I think that stats are not very well mentioned here. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Just point of order. How much do we have our time set for? 90 seconds? Are you sure that's right? Okay.
Welcome.
Hi, my name's Greg Suska. I am applauding your effort to stand against a lawless law like SB 54. Kevin DeLeon is breaking our Federal Communication Act by not allowing sheriffs to communicate with the federal immigration officers. SB 54, our LA School Board appointed an ad hoc committee which came up with 6 recommendations. The very first one is not to honor federal detainers. Not honoring federal detainers means your policemen, even though you don't have a jail here but around, that have to go into the community to arrest these criminals. Sanctuary is for the criminals. That's what SB 54 is addressing. They're allowing our criminals to be set loose into our community. If that's okay with you, that's against protecting me as a citizen. Your city affects all of us around us, and I applaud you to go against SB 54 and stand with our president and our federal Constitution of the United States to uphold a safety factor for your police and the community residents that you're here to protect. A policeman going out in the field to collect their criminal is such a high risk that it's even impossible for me to think that someone who I know who's in the law enforcement would have to do that. Thank you again so much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk? 5 more.
Kim Kimberly, followed by Elsa Aldeguer. That's all. Yes.
Welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name is Elsa Aldeguer. I want to thank you very much for doing this because SB 54, it's not, it doesn't follow the federal laws. I'm representing the Latinos for Trump and also Make California Great Again, and I'm talking on behalf of all the Latino community here, legal Latino community. We are against SB 54. And we think that SB 54 should not be allowed. And it just brings more crime, more violence to our communities. I've been a resident of Los Angeles. I don't reside here, but I want to tell you about the consequences. I've lived in different cities in Los Angeles, and I've seen it. I've seen the crime. I've seen how, they just, the lawlessness that it's going on in our cities. And I want to just tell you, please do what's right, because if you do go with what Kevin De Leon is doing, you're sending a message around the world. Come to our cities, you're going to be protected. So we want to send a message that if you're a criminal, don't come to our cities. And I'm telling you that I've been living in different cities, and I've seen how the crime raises up when all these illegal gang members take over. And you don't want that here. You don't want this in your communities. Also,
Time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you guys.
We've had no further requests.
All right. Do we have at this point, we will turn it over to the city attorney, who'll give us a report, and then it will be council discussion and then possible action. So, city attorney, do you have a report for us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Much has already been said. Just a very brief report. This item is before the council tonight pursuant to a motion for consensus made by council member Scott Voice. That motion was to provide the council with an opportunity to discuss SB 54 and the possible adoption of a statement of support for the city council of the city of Los Alamitos. In 2017, Governor Brown signed into law several bills designed to protect non-residents from federal immigration laws and regulations, including SB 54, called the California Values Act. SB 54 generally prohibits California law enforcement agencies from using agency money, personnel, or resources to investigate, interrogate, detain, detect, or arrest persons for immigration enforcement purposes. In March of this year, the federal government sued the state of California, Governor Brown, and the AG over the sanctuary state laws. The lawsuit seeks a declaration that the laws, including SB 54, conflict with federal law and seeks an injunction enjoining the state's enforcement of these laws. Since the lawsuit was filed, a number of agencies across the state have weighed in on SB 54 in the federal lawsuit, including Los Alamitos, the County of Orange, Aliso Viejo, Yorba Linda, Huntington Beach, and Mission Viejo, and of course that list is growing. My office has prepared a resolution for the council's consideration. The resolution is modeled after resolutions enacted in Aliso Viejo and Mission Viejo and affirms the city council's support of the rule of law, support of local law enforcement efforts to keep the Lake Forest community safe, and support for Los Alamitos ordinance opposing SB 54, all pursuant to the previous council consensus. The council may adopt a proposed resolution opposing SB 54 and supporting Los Alamitos, or may take no action pursuant to discretion. I'd be happy to answer questions the council may have.
Does any of the council have questions for the city attorney? And following that, I'm going to ask the police chief to give us some idea of how this impacts police services. But right now, does anyone have a question for the city attorney?
Mr. Richardson, what the cities have done, the other cities of Orange County, can Can you give us a rundown? Who's done a resolution? Who's done an amicus brief in support? And what's entailed in an amicus brief that if the cities get involved, what's the financial cost to the city and how much time is that going to be involved?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Of course, Los Alamitos has taken the first step in aggressive action. Huntington Beach
So what do Los Alamitos do? Did they actually join the lawsuit?
They adopted an ordinance. I'm not sure if they are going to pursue a lawsuit. I know Huntington Beach is going to pursue a lawsuit. The County of Orange will. Mission Viejo adopted a resolution simply supporting Los Alamitos' action and opposing SB 54. As far as lending our support to an amicus brief, the cost is unknown. It would likely be fairly minimal, as it would be simply lending our name to the existing amicus brief. It should be noted the deadline for joining the amicus brief at the trial court level was April 6th. That deadline may be extended if the venue changes, but there's also an opportunity for amicus support on appeal if there is an appeal, which would be likely.
And so for those that are in the audience, and by the way, thank you for all of you that come on both sides to be heard by us. Obviously, the safety of our citizens is the utmost important to us, but the fact is that we want to be a city that's welcoming to all, but the fact that there are extremely volatile circumstances when people are committing crimes and being released. And so that's why I think that's something that's worth discussion, to be whether it be a sanctuary city or to stand against it. So, amicus brief, could you give us what that entailed? What does that mean for the people?
Yes. So an amicus brief is a friend of the court brief. The federal lawsuit, of course, is the direct challenge to SB 54. Anyone can file a friend of the court brief that acts to add support to the plaintiff's briefs, in this case the federal argument, or to put forward additional arguments for the court to consider when ruling on the complaint.
But at this time, the only people that have actually sued is the federal government, correct? And Orange County has not joined any suit or started any litigation.
As of yet, that's correct.
And so we can't join with the County of Orange, or can? How does that work? I mean, if they haven't gone forth yet, can we give direction as a council to move forward then, and not have to have another meeting, or do we have to wait till they make litigation?
Yeah, we don't know yet exactly what the County of Orange is going to do. They've certainly given direction to file suit. We don't know what that lawsuit will look like. We know what the federal litigation looks like. Amicus briefs have been filed in support of the federal litigation.
But many of us have read that Orange County has taken steps. The Orange County Sheriff Department has done. What are they doing? Are they pursuant to the law, and how they are making? They say that they've supervent the law, or what does that entail?
Yeah, it's best that I probably pass the baton at this point to the Chief of Police, Brad Valentine, as I don't want to speak for the Orange County Sheriff's Department.
Mayor and members of the council and the public. Currently, the Sheriff of Orange County opposed SB 54. However, the Sheriff is obligated to follow the law of the land. So currently, the Sheriff is following SB 54 and has implemented its practices. Now, what this means, prior to SB 54, undocumented criminal offenders who were identified within the Orange County Jail were released to ICE officials from the jail instead of being released into the community. After SB 54, these individuals that are criminal offenders that are identified within the jail, we are no longer allowed to communicate with ICE officials for them to come pick them up from within the jail in a nice, controlled, safe environment. These criminal offenders are now released into the community, where ICE officials, not the Orange County Sheriff's Department, ICE officials now have to go into the community to detain and arrest these people for the violations. So that's how the Sheriff's Department is affected by SB 54. Local law enforcement, the field level law enforcement, the sheriff's deputies you see on the street every day, we do not enforce immigration law. We never have, we never will. Okay? We don't ask a person's legal status when they're a victim of a crime, when they're a witness of a crime, when they're under arrest. Those questions come later once they're incarcerated and convicted of a crime.
Just to follow up, Chief, people may not be aware, but Lake Forest does not have its own police department in the same way that Los Alamitos or many of the other cities do. We contract with the county, and I believe there are 13 other cities that contract with the county. So in contracting with the county, we follow, therefore, what the county and the police do. I noticed you said that in the day-to-day operations of the police here in Lake Forest, nothing with regard to SB 54 actually comes into play, and you explained that very well. Also, how about with release? Does that impact, does SB 54 impact Lake Forest directly with regard to release, even if it doesn't regard to arrest?
If I can try to understand your question, there are no inmates directly released from the jail in Orange into the city of Lake Forest.
Okay, and which jail, for everyone's sake, which jail are we talking about?
So for the James A. Music facility, inmates are not released there. They're bussed up to Santa Ana. Okay? The Theo Lacey jail in Orange, depending on their classification level, they would be released into the city of Orange or bussed to Santa Ana. The inmates from the main jail, the women's jail, and the intake release center that are all in Santa Ana, they are released there in Santa Ana. However, they're released in the Santa Ana, and the Sheriff's Department, I don't have any stats in front of me as to what communities they're from, but their direct release occurs within the city of Santa Ana.
All right, council members, any more questions? I didn't mean to interrupt you. Any more questions for city attorney or for the chief?
I have a question. Regarding the amicus brief, if we were to hypothetically join the amicus brief with the federal government, I heard mention of, I guess, fringe groups that help to facilitate the amicus brief. I don't know if is that true? Is that the case, that there are organizations that put it together to create the amicus brief for cities to join into? And if that's the case, is it possible for us to create our own amicus brief independent so that we become completely non-biased, non-partisan? Because I think that's kind of the purpose of what we're trying to do, is we're trying to do what's best for the people without there being a special interest involved.
Mr. Mayor, council members, the city council could serve direction for the city to produce its own independent amicus brief. There would be no problem with that.
Just as a follow-up to that, what preparing the amicus brief right now for other cities? I didn't follow that.
Mr. Mayor, council, I can't give you the exact title of the group. It is an independent nonprofit, I believe. Many of the speakers mentioned the name of the group, but they have requested jurisdictions throughout California to join their briefing, their amicus brief, and support their briefing.
I think that bring controversy to us as a city. I like the idea that if we were going to do it, we would write up on our own. Lieutenant Valentine, what is the policy now, as stated by the Orange County Sheriff Department, that as release, everybody's name that's being released from the Orange County Sheriff Department is being
Mayor and members of the council, if I understand your question, you're referring to the release dates?
The release dates of
So
inmates from
the past practice of the Sheriff's Department is that release dates were not made public. That was for the safety of all inmates, so nobody could look that up online and know when somebody was getting out of jail. So what the Sheriff's Department has done, what the Sheriff has done to try to work around SB 54 so that ICE officials or anyone else, any member of the general public, anybody now can now go online to OCSD.org and look up an inmate's release date so that they know when they're getting out of custody.
So that's not immigrants or non-immigrants, that's everybody.
It's everyone within the Orange County jail system. Anybody can use that system to know when an inmate, regardless of their legal status, is being released from our custody.
Thank you.
I have a question about that, because I know there was a recent lawsuit with OCSD and the sheriff's blotter, and you're no longer allowed to
provide specific information about crimes and things as you once were. Could that possibly interfere with your ability to report everyone's names upon checking out of jail?
I'm not 100%, I don't have all the information on that litigation. The sheriff's blotter should be a separate incident or issue from the release dates.
Any other questions? All right, so we are, our options are, as some people suggested, to do nothing and to just table the matter. It doesn't directly impact Lake Forest on the one hand, either in our release or our arrest. On the other hand, we could support or we could oppose at the level of the city, as in Los Alamitos, the county, as in county, or the federal government. So those are all our options, and I believe, having listened here tonight and read online, there are reasons, you could have reasons to adopt any of these positions. The question for us here tonight is, what position do we want to adopt? So do I have more discussion, or if there's no more discussion, then I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to just make a comment. I think Dave Carter said it best. We have an oath of office. We have a constitution to uphold. I don't think there's any discussion involved here. We have to support Los Alamitos if we do not do our own.
So, Councilman Robinson.
I concur with Councilmember Cagley's comments there. I think that Commissioner Carter put it very well. When we take an oath, we need to abide by that. That's probably the most important thing that we need to do. Our individual council policies and things like that are secondary. How we conduct ourselves, what we do in public, what we do in private. But that oath needs to mean something, and when that oath is in contradiction to one another, where the federal government and the state government are both telling us conflicting things, then we need to stand up and tell the state government that the federal government is the supreme law of the land. And we can't preempt, the state government shouldn't be preempting federal law. And so, there's been a lot of anecdotal stories that have been shared today, and I just want to make it clear how much I appreciate everyone's comments. I appreciate everyone's passion on this issue. I want to be very careful on all sides of this, and I think there's more than two. I think there's many. But to paint with a broad brush, okay? There are, as I think Mr. Burke mentioned, there are some illegal immigrants in this country that work very hard, that don't commit crimes, that raise their families and are trying to do good in the communities they live. They're trying to leave areas of extreme oppression, extreme depression, and they're coming to what I believe is the greatest country on the face of the earth. And there are also people who live here legally, who commit a lot of crimes, who are leeching off of the federal government, the state government, and the county government. So they're good and bad on both sides, and I don't want to paint any group, any individual with a broad brush. I want us all to recognize that. We need to respect one another, but there comes a time when people are committing crimes. I don't care whether they are here legally, I don't care whether they were born here, I don't care if they came here in the last few hours and committed a crime. Those folks, when they're released, if they're here illegally, they need to be sent back to where they came from. If they're here legally, then depending on their crime, there's a lot of things that we need to do. We've talked a lot about sexual predators and things like that, keeping track of individuals, because there is a certain level of recidivism. So because of that, I think that SB 54 is not a good law. It's not that I don't appreciate the fact that there are illegal immigrants in this country that are just trying to better their lives. But those that are committing crimes, we need to make sure they can't commit more. Very, very important. And so, again, the conflict with the oath is probably the most significant issue for me. Secondarily is I understand that the Sheriff's Department can work with ICE on serious violent felonies that are inmates that are being released. But when the state government is also redefining what is a violent crime, that's a problem. What used to be a violent crime in some cases isn't today. So it might not fall into that category. That's really, really important for us to focus on. So for that reason, I concur with Councilman Cagley's comments with respect to the oath. And
I'd like to make another comment. Someone who has a daughter that attends school here in Saddleback Valley and actually loves and excels at the game of soccer. I'm a former carpenter by trade. I know the hardworking values of some of our immigrants. And I think that we as a nation of immigrants respect immigrants coming to this great nation because they want to better their life. And America is still that shining city on the hill, and people want to come here for the hope and dream of a better life. It's those that come here to divert the law. And I think SB 54 ties the hands of our law enforcement officers that are trying in vain in some cases because of the crazy laws coming from Sacramento, trying to keep us safe. We've all heard about the uptick in crime, whether it be violent crime or break-ins or the car snatching that we've had. We've all read about the homeless problems we've had, seen it along our freeways. I think that we have an escalating problem, and I think to keep us safe, we have to give every resource, every tool to our law enforcement officers that out there that many of us take it for granted in the cities of Lake Forest, Mission Viejo, because we live in fairly affluent areas that are safer communities. But the fact is that we have to keep our citizens safe, and as sworn elected officials for this city, I think it's our duty to stand with the Constitution and stand with the laws of our nation, because our nation is a land of immigrants, but it is also a land of laws. And so I'll make the motion that we accept the resolution that is written by our legal staff, and then I'd like to entertain the thought of joining the amicus brief, and just like to open up that for discussion, because that way we are sending a clear and defined message that we stand with law, and that we are a city of laws, and we are a city that is considered a law-abiding city. So I'd like to throw that out as a motion.
I'll second.
Is that a single motion, or it sounded like two motions?
I think we should separate them.
I'll make the first motion is that we accept the resolution in support of the opposition of SB 54 is written by our legal, Mr. Richardson. And I'll make that motion.
And I seconded it.
Okay, vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
Is there a second motion? Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Please, keep it down. Is there a second motion?
I think that
Is there a second motion?
as we're going forth as a nation, as a county, and trying to defend the lands of this, the laws of this land, I think that a statement, a legal statement, which would be an amicus brief, written by our legal team, that would state that we stand with the laws of this nation, that we oppose SB 54 as written, because we want our law enforcement officers, if you do the crime, we all expect you to do the time. Well, if you do the crime, why should we be hiding them and releasing them without notifying our law enforcement officer or our immigration officers that they are here illegally and they've done a crime? So,
Is all of that in the motion? Or could you show me?
I would like to make the motion that we prepare a amicus brief.
And would that be a brief for the federal case? Which case would that be for?
Well, the only one that we have the option to, Mr. Richardson.
Mr. Mayor, council members, so the deadline for filing amicus support currently in the federal case has passed. Now, that may be extended. There will be a subsequent deadline on appeal. We've heard that from the plaintiff's attorneys who have reached out to us. So if the council were to make a motion and support that motion, we could draft the amicus brief and hold off until a subsequent time when there is an opportunity to file amicus brief. Right now, again, that deadline has passed.
And is that for which case?
That's the federal case,
Federal
Mr. Mayor.
case, okay. Is that okay with you?
The County of Orange is still pending.
County of Orange hasn't yet been drafted or filed. There will be a subsequent opportunity to file amicus support in the federal litigation.
So,
All right, so should his motion be just a general amicus brief, and at some point in the future, we could decide where we file it?
We would have to come back to council if it was a general amicus brief. If it was direction to file amicus support in the federal litigation, then that would be sufficient, and at the earliest opportunity to file amicus support, we could do that, either if the trial court deadline was moved, or if there was an appeal, we could file amicus support at that time.
Does that work for you?
that works for me.
And I like the idea of writing it completely independent of any special interest, because what we're trying to do is take the emotion out of law. There should not be any emotion in law, and if someone were to feel that we were making decisions and there was some sort of bias involved, I think that impacts our ability to make good decisions. So making it completely independent, I think, will stand on its own a lot better.
And you're just
Is
clarifying.
that a second?
Yes, that's a second.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. So let's vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
Normally at 8 o'clock we take a break, and we've obviously run to 8:10. We're going to take a break now. Please come back at 8:25. Thank you. Council, please. Let's resume. No, we're doing 90 seconds for everybody. We have to stick. You can't discriminate and say this one goes 3 minutes, this one goes 9 minutes. All right, the next item on our agenda are presentations, and we have a proclamation declaring April 22nd, 2018 as Earth Day in the city of Lake Forest, submitted by the Director of Public Works. And did you want to say something about that, Tom?
I would love to say something about that. We actually have two presentations today, or this evening, for Council's consideration. The first declares Earth Day as April 22nd in the city of Lake Forest, and Earth Day is designed to create awareness and appreciation for Earth's natural resources. And the second sets April 27th as Arbor Day, which recognizes the importance of trees as being part of Lake Forest. That's obviously part of our name and nature. So with those two, if the mayor wants to join me up front, and we'll exchange a proclamation.
Mr. Wheeler, on that subject about trees, we have a program in Lake Forest. It's called Adopt a Tree. Could you explain to the residents about our program to buy a tree?
Yeah, the Expand the Forest program is just a great program where someone can sponsor a tree or buy a tree. We'll have it planted. We'll have a ceremony if you so inclined to be able to share that tree in one of the parks. We've got parks, so you can choose several different trees to choose from. So we encourage people to go on our website and this program.
Thank you.
Feel have a tree or something. Some dirt. For Earth. Wait, no. Arbor Day.
Arbor Day, too.
Lake Forest, Arbor Day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And just for sake of we need to do it, I'll move the presentation.
Second.
Vote, please. All right, public comments. We reached the public comment section of the agenda. As a reminder,
I'm sorry, does she need to say, give us, if the motion passed?
That motion carries with Councilmember Voigt absent from the dais.
Sorry.
I don't know, we'd have to take back the proclamations if it didn't pass. Earth Day, the earthquakes, Jesus. We've reached the public comment section of the agenda. As a reminder, if you would like to participate, please fill out a blue speaker card, turn it into the city clerk, and your name will be called. Do we have requests to speak?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Kim
It's-
Sargent. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to read, because the video was so long ago, it seemed like another world. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 90 seconds per person. We adopted 90 seconds, so we're going to adopt the 90 seconds going on, and with an overall time of 30 minutes for the public comment section of the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion. We count. How many people do we have for public comments?
11.
So if we went back to 3 minutes, that's standard for us. 3 minutes. I make a motion. We accept 3 minutes per person. That's our 30 minutes.
I'm worried about seeming biased that we limited one section of the program and we didn't limit another section of the program.
I think it's standard for the people to speak 3 minutes to the council, and I think it's wrong to that was a special thing where we had supposedly over 175 people here, so I understand the minute and a half, but for our residents to come for public comments to come to our city, I think it's a standard 3 minutes.
To clarify, Mr. City Attorney, will we be in any issue if we were to change
This is council's prerogative. There is a question of optics, but there's no legal requirement. This is entirely within the discretion of the council.
Yeah, I don't want to be put in a position of someone saying, well, you're shortchanged the one discussion and now you're playing with that.
The people here, so my motion is that we accept the 3 minutes for the people to speak on public comments.
Is there a second?
I'll second. I understand the rationale for not doing it, but I think that we treated everyone on that issue equally, so we'll treat everyone on this issue equally, and I don't have a problem with that. So, but I understand for those that might disagree.
Okay, so we're voting on whether or not to extend. Vote yes if you want 3 minutes. Vote no if you want to stick to the 90 seconds.
That motion carries with Mayor Gardner and Councilmember Cagley opposed.
All right, then the 3 minutes with the normal 30-second red light, green light. All right, who's the first speaker?
Kim Sargente, followed by Mike Black.
Okay.
Okay. Mike Black, followed by John Bush.
Okay.
Okay. John Bush, followed by Mark Murphy.
Get welcome.
Good evening. I'll make this just as quick as I can. I decided this week to put my money where my mouth was, as I've been told so many times to do recently by citizens here, so I did so. I took the money out of my pocket. I went down and had polygraph exam taken of myself. 2 different polygraph exams, which only allow 4 questions per exam. I'll go through them as quickly as I can. Number 1, did Adam Nick pay you to help run Leah Basil's campaign in 2016? I answered yes. Was Leah Basil told by Adam Nick that he was paying you to run the campaign? Yes. Have you told the truth at all recent city council meetings during public comment? Yes. Have you been paid by anyone for anything to do with Lake Forest since the recall? No. After carefully reviewing and analyzing the polygraph charts, it is the opinion of the examiner that there was no deception indicated during this polygraph examination. Polygraph number 2. Did Adam Nick tell you he needed a council majority to get an award of over $1.4 million? Answer was yes. Did you tell Leah Basil about the $1.4 million during her campaign? Answer was yes. Did you stay at Adam Nick's home for 3 months during 2016 campaign? The answer was yes. Does the unpaid portion of your contract with Adam Nick have anything to do with the validity percentages? The answer is no. On these 4 questions, after carefully reviewing and analyzing the polygraph charts, it is the opinion of the examiner that there was no deception indicated during this polygraph examination. Now, this is just because I really got tired of being told some of the things that I've been told and being called a liar. I live in a world of integrity. Whether anyone wants to buy this or not, you don't have to, because the money speaks for itself. I have been called on the internet in this past week a traitor, a snitch, a whore, and I'm too old to be making these mistakes, and that Mexico was very close, and maybe I should consider going there. I consider those threats, and I'm not going to get into that. That's why anyone that wants to challenge this, put your money where your mouth is. Anybody wants to call me a liar, put your money where your mouth is.
Thank you. City Manager, can I ask you a question? Has anybody proposed giving Adam Nick $1.4 million?
No, I have not heard that proposal.
How about giving me $1.4 million?
Nor have I heard that proposal.
Well, maybe we could, we could at least give me the 1.4. So next,
Mark Murphy, followed by Bob Holtzclaw.
welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to read something that's describing where Jim Gardner is talking to a local resident, John Claycomb, describing the 2 recall efforts. John, I wanted to clarify something I had noticing or nothing to do with the first recall. It was a complete surprise to me. Concerning Citizens, led by Leah Basil, started it. For a while, I tried to stay out of it, but the gang right away accused me of being behind it. I explained that I didn't, and even Leah confirmed that I wasn't involved. But they persisted, and started to attack me, as well as Adam Nick. At some point, after a few months of this nonsense, I asked Leah what I could do to help. She said she needed money, so I gave her some money. A few weeks later, she asked again, and I gave her some more. These are the facts, regardless of what you may have heard. The first recall was a movement of the residents, not me. The second recall was also organized by the residents, in the case Larissa Clark and many who were involved in the first recall. I was aware this time of what they were planning to do, that's all, just aware. That's my words, by the way. I'm in favor of removing Hamilton, so I've been helpful to them, giving them information I have. I didn't, however, commit any funds this time. Bottom line, both recalls are resident actions against the gang they consider corrupt, lacking compassion, and controlled by special interests. I agree with those opinions. That was the date, April 26, 2017. I'd like to go through a timeline. Let's go back to Recall 1, which comments by an activist asking Gardner, private comments, by the way, shared on the internet. 10/11 of 15. Is Nick still on the recall train? Is anyone else on it with him? That was to Gardner. Gardner's response, I believe he is. I discouraged him, but said that if he could go ahead with it, I would help. The publicity against these clowns is a good thing. It would also help to the upcoming efforts to tarnish Robinson. Think about that date, 10/11 of 15. October 20th, 2015. Leah Bassell files and signs on 10/16 of 2015. Just a few days later. Let's flash forward, shall we, to Recall 2. It was released that Jim Gardner actively worked on that campaign and was in the approval chain. From 414 to 425, he is counting up and verifying signatures. All right? Let's think about that. John Claycomb, by the way, the last one was April 25th, where he counted signatures. April 26th is exactly what he told John Claycomb. He had nothing to do with it, and he wasn't aware. Think about that.
Time's up.
Bob Holtzclaw, followed by Cody Karate.
Welcome.
Bob Holtzclaw, resident of Lake Forest. Last meeting we had here, we had someone yelling in the background, Bob was paid, Bob was paid. Well, that person is a liar. Maybe I ought to take another test. What happened was, a school teacher friend of mine wanted to raise some money for her school. She didn't want to be anywhere close to John Bush or anybody else in this thing because of school politics. So I told her, I says, John Bush is paying $5 for every signature that you can get. They're good signatures for the city. She said, okay, I'll do that, but I don't want to even talk to this man. So I said, okay, fine. John Bush came over to my house, and I explained to him, I says, this is for a teacher who, got some signatures for you, and you can pay me and I'll pay her because she doesn't want to, be into this situation. And that's how it was, because at first, she told me, she says that Hamilton is probably one of the most arrogant people there, and she had no problem getting signatures. And she did. And as far as the signatures that I got for myself, I gave to Larissa Clark, and Larissa Clark can verify she never paid me, or Adam Nick ever paid me. I never got any money from anybody. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Cody Karate, followed by Chad Kurthy.
Let's keep it quiet, just as we did before, and pretend we're in a courtroom. Lieutenant, could you ask those people to quiet down?
His time's already started. Excuse me.
No, don't reset his tone. Yeah, reset his tone. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, City Council, Mayor, Ms. Basil. First of all, I'd like to thank what we like to call Station 18 for protecting us tonight. I am one of your 911 Orange County Fire dispatchers. I'm a resident of Lake Forest, I've lived here for 2 years. More importantly, my wife has lived her entire life. Her whole family lives here. So you can say I have a vested interest in this city. We're in charge of over 1.8 million people in the county. Their lives, their safety depends on us answering the 911 calls. Your current proposal to move dispatchers to 12-hour shifts is irresponsible at best. Not only are you costing over $500,000 more annual in budget, you're also decreasing dispatchers, up to 4 dispatchers per day at any given point. You're eliminating callback to emergency situations, in case we break another big fire, in case riots erupt, in case of a lot of things. That callback is vital to the county's safety, and especially to the city's safety here. Your actions, I feel like you've been misled. But we've been here, we've talked to you here, we've talked to you at Orange County headquarters. But those words go unlistened, unheard. Instead, you like to stay in your own small bubble and listen to advice of people who don't actually do the job. We're here, just like you're here, just like my chief sitting over here, for your safety. That is our job. It's irresponsible not to listen to the people that are in charge of your safety and what serves you best. It may sound pretty putting us on 12s, but it's anything but. A lot of things sound pretty, but when you actually look at the hard facts, 12s are not the answer, in the least bit. It increases costs, increases pensions, increases a lot of things. The one thing it does decrease, though, public safety, firefighter safety, sheriff's safety if they get hurt. I don't want their answer missed on the radio. I don't want someone to answer that's here in the crowd missed for their 911 call to us because we're too busy answering other lines tied to other incidents. Your actions have consequences. I hope you consider all of them. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry,
Next.
Chad Kurthy, followed by Randy Johnson.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Chad Kurthy. I'm a resident of Rancho Santa Margarita, and I'm another one of the Fire 911 dispatchers. You heard my partner talk about the facts, trying to downsize staffing. A few weeks ago, my coworker Megan was here, and she made some comments, and Mayor Pro Tem Basil had some comments afterwards. She wasn't able to respond due to the rules of public comment, but I'm able to. The first thing that Ms. Basil spoke about was fatigue, that the dispatchers are under for working 24-hour shifts. The board wants us to be at our best and is looking out for us. Well, this simply is not true. Where is the study that shows the dispatchers are fatigued from 24-hour shift schedules? In fact, most, if not all, the dispatchers wrote letters to the board of directors explaining how the 12-hour shifts will make life much more fatigued for them. Essentially, these letters were people begging for you not to change their way of life that they have built around that they've built their families around. Half of our dispatchers commute from outside Orange County due to not being able to afford living in Orange County. You are asking some of these people to drive 2 hours each way to and from work, sleep, eat, spend time with their families, and do it all in 12 hours they have off. Not to even mention that if someone calls off sick, that your 12-hour shift is going to get turned into a 16-hour shift. Even less time off duty to rest and do everything you need to do with your family. Ms. Basil talked about studies that have been done that during the historically busier hours, there would be extra staff on, is what she said. If by extra staff you mean the same number of 911 dispatchers that you have on right now, then you're talking about just the afternoon. In the evening, graveyard hours, and mornings, there will be considerably less dispatchers on shift, up to 4. The fire department is in the what-if business. We are society's insurance policy. You never know when an emergency or disaster is going to happen. If you downsize 911 and switch us to the 12s, you are dismissing this vital fact about the fire service. Ms. Basil talked about how 12-hour shifts are in line with what other agencies in the area do. There are no other agencies in the area like OCFA. The only other large fire agency in the county doesn't handle any wildland. In their jurisdictions, we handle it for them. Ms. Basil talked about dispatchers being on call. I don't know where she got that from. Nowhere in any of the proposals have we ever talked about dispatchers being on call. That seems like a made-up fact. And the last thing is, she talked about how she's had advice, well, the board has had advice from several members of the OCFA. Those are fire chiefs who used to be firefighters who never have been dispatchers and don't know how to do that. We talk to them, but they still do not understand. We would love it if you're going to make a decision like this, to make an educated decision. Ask someone who actually knows what it's like. Nobody in those rooms or the closed sessions has ever plugged in, taken a 911 call, done CPR over the phone, delivered a baby over the phone, tried to help people multiple times a shift on the worst day of their life. So please, if you're going to make a decision, make an educated one. Just don't believe, well, the fire chief said it, it must be true. Please look for yourself. Thank you.
Randy Johnson, followed by Lori Plans.
Welcome back.
Oh, good evening, Council. Randy Johnson here again, and it's a great night to be an American. I want to thank all 5 of you for passing item number 20 and giving us a special little treat by deciding to file an independent amicus brief. I never had any idea that would happen tonight, and I thank all 5 of you for that. Okay, tonight I want to talk a little bit about respect. Okay, we had that discussion 2 weeks ago. As you know, we had a very raucous meeting because of the fact that you put 2 agenda items on the agenda that had to do with Scott Boyd's censure and also a pay raise. 2 very, very contentious, controversial subjects. So you really caused this yourself, and I think it was Leah and Mr. Gardner there that offered the motions to do this, all right? So you really have yourselves to blame because you know it's going to draw the ire of the people in the audience, all right? And prior to the meeting, I asked you not to go forward with the censure because I knew it would happen, but you did it anyway. You wanted your pound of flesh, and you didn't get it. And you end up looking like fools. So, you deserve what you get. Now, also, as far as the pay raise is concerned, you wanted 153% compensation raise, more than any other council in Lake Forest history, after you've caused all these problems in our city. And we've become the laughingstock of Orange County. And you want 153% pay raise, compensation raise. So silly. And you get mad at me because I show disrespect. You say I show disrespect. You said that during the council comments at the end of the meeting. Well, you showed disrespect to us. You showed disrespect, Mayor Gardner, to these to Voights and Hamilton and Robinson in your blogs. You've had over 1,000 of them. You talk about disrespect, sir, and then you expect us to respect you after you treat your colleagues in that way? You know how hypocritical that is. So I really resent it when you tell me to be respectful when you aren't respectful at all. You aren't respectful at all, sir. And Leah, the same with you, like with the, when I wanted the cat licenses. And I mentioned to you that, let's have it, and you came up with these phony excuses, well, there's nobody else that does this around here, maybe up in Northern California. I said, no, LA County does it. And then it's going to cost us a lot of money because we have to pay the difference between the price for the license and how much. And I said, well, we have to do the same thing for dogs. And you show disrespect for me by not saying, well, you're right, Mr. Johnson. I made a mistake there, and you're right, and I'll take that into consideration. You just ignored it. By ignoring me, you showed disrespect for me.
Time's up. Thank you.
Show respect for us, we'll show respect for you.
Lori Plans, followed by Sherry Anderson. Sherry Anderson, followed by Josh Biscay.
Welcome.
Thank you. I love living in Lake Forest. And I'm thrilled to have Dr. Gardner as our mayor and our new council members, Leah Bissell and Colonel Tom Cagley. I started attending council meetings 2.5 years ago when we started talking about having a no-kill shelter. I was heartbroken when 3 of our councilmen voted for a 10-year contract with the high kill pound, Orange County Pound, 17 miles away. They still kill 700 to 900 helpless pets every month, calling those under 8 weeks too young to live. I was involved in the first recall attempt, and I still don't believe we didn't have enough signatures.
While I was collecting signatures, I was approached by past councilmen a couple of times and even videotaped. I was basically accused of being a pedophile in literature sent out by the builders and developers that supported the councilmen. I was called a liar by my own party, the GOP of Orange County. Even a local businessman using the fake name of Eric Berg was nasty and even threatening online. It was just as nasty as others they were just as nasty with others collecting signatures. I learned the meaning of dirty politics because I wanted a no-kill shelter. When a resident and local businessman offered to pay signature collectors to try again, I was thrilled. Collecting signatures is a tough job, but an honest job. I think John Bush said he was paid over $100,000 last year to do so. When developers and builders want something on the ballot, they pay signature collectors. They're not out there collecting signatures on their own. Thanks to the recall, and I was one of, I think, 74% of the people that voted for the recall, our council is now looking into a no-kill shelter option for our city, and also into looking at more responsible growth. Thank you, Councilman, for your help and your support of a no-kill shelter.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Josh Fiske.
Doesn't seem to be here. Next.
No further comments.
Okay, moving right along. The consent calendar. All matters listed under the Warren Registered are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the Warren Register for separate action. Have there been any requests to pull an item from the Warren Register?
No, Your Honor.
Colleagues,
I'll move.
Second.
please vote.
That motion carries unanimously.
Consent calendar miscellaneous, items 6 through 19. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. Didn't I just say this? There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items be removed from the consent calendar for specific action. Have there been any requests to remove an item from the consent calendar?
Yes, Your Honor, item 15. However, Lori Plans, I don't believe is in the audience any longer.
I'd like to pull 8.
8, okay.
Number 16.
And 16? Okay.
And 11 and 17.
18, 11, 17, bingo.
Bingo.
Okay. Anything else? All right, then I'll accept a motion to accept the
Motion
remaining.
move the remainder.
Second.
Please vote. And
That motion carries unanimously.
that brings us to item 8.
Madam City Manager and Mr. Nee, I'm asking just to give a report. Your report says 138 million in cash, and that we are obviously going forward with the Civic Center, and we're making some hopefully big decisions tonight. Where we stand with the payments of the Civic Center and our cash flow and our reserves.
The payments on the Civic Center payments, the 138 million you see in the Treasury report has sufficient fund balance for the contracts you will approve later on tonight, and has sufficient fund balance to cash flow the Civic Center through the remainder of the project. Your second question was, what was your second question?
That actually was my question, is with the money that's coming out of our account for the Civic Center, how much will that leave us at the end of our Civic Center? And I'll talk about the other Civic Center as we go forward, but what would that leave us with the...
Well, just a reminder, the money coming out of the account for the Civic Center is impact fees. It's being funded 100% by impact fees.
Cash flow?
Well, yeah, it'll be cash flowed by all impact fees. The $138 million you see on the Treasury report is a combination of all funds in the city. That includes the general fund, that includes special revenue funds, and all capital improvement project funds.
Okay. So that was my question. Thank you.
Okay, shall we vote then to accept the Treasury?
I'll move that item number 8.
Second.
That motion carries unanimously.
Item 11.
That was my pool too, and that's actually concerning our park restrooms. How often are they cleaned, and are they the ones that are responsible for surveying, or do we have inspectors that go out to each park and survey the bathrooms and how well they're kept up?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. They're cleaned daily, and we do have inspectors. We're adding another facilities inspector to be able to do that, and we follow up with that. The bathrooms being public in nature, you can clean them in the next hour. They're a mess, and it's a real challenge to keep them. That's why in the report we're adding some additional services that working with community services they thought would be helpful during the summer months and the high use months. We're going to add some additional cleaning and then a good power washing, which we haven't done before, each month. So that's in the proposed scope of work also for a new scope of work.
So besides the park ambassadors, that we have park ambassadors that actually survey the parks on the weekends, and is that correct, Mr.?
Generally, the park ambassadors are confined to the sports park.
So we don't have park ambassadors for the other parks throughout the city?
For the other 30 parks, we don't.
So we have the inspector that is actually a service inspector. What do you call them?
So we have our daily we have our landscape inspectors. We have 2 for the 30 parks. They're not there. They don't work weekends. They're there. They will inspect the facilities when they're at the park. They're not at the parks daily.
But the bathrooms are cleaned during the weekend, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So when they have our park inspectors, do they inspect just the bathrooms, or do they do a walk through the whole park, kind of like our field ambassadors? We used to have field ambassadors that actually surveyed the parks on the weekends.
We don't have inspectors that are at the parks on the weekends.
Okay. All right.
Can I just add, Serrano Park, the restrooms are a lot cleaner than they used to be. I used to be afraid to go in there. So I'm noticing an improvement in services, so that's good.
We did some CIP.
So I'll move item number 11.
I have a few comments myself. I was going to pull it, but first of all, you may notice a yellow sheet that the staff provided. I talked to the city manager today, and I see some value in us understanding what ALF tickets are coming into the city for that aren't directed to the city council, but pertain to contracts that we may vote on. So you'll notice, in this particular item that this year we've had, it looks like 0 ALF requests with respect to park restroom maintenance. Last year we had 2, so we're not talking about a large volume. I think this information is really beneficial. It doesn't capture everyone who may have a problem, as you mentioned, an hour after it's cleaned. It could be completely filthy, but this is just a good barometer for us to really see what residents are feeling about the service being provided. And I think that as the city app starts to develop and there's more opportunity for ALF tickets, there's the potential that numbers like this may increase, which I actually see as a good thing, not a bad thing. I wouldn't see it as being a negative reflection on the service provider in any way, but just better ability for residents to communicate to us. So I think we need to be careful of how we look at these numbers, but I think that it's really beneficial as we're analyzing contracts and amendments and so forth. While we're just kind of on the general topic, and if I veer too far, Mr. City Attorney, please stop me. But last year I brought up, I may have called 1 or two of you regarding portable bathrooms at the sports park during a renovation. I think, and I know that that doesn't necessarily pertain to this contract, but I think that when those are out, we need to have pretty significant cleaning. They're only out there for a couple of weeks, and talk about, I mean, they can be filthy in 10 minutes, let alone an hour. And there's, especially on weekends, there's just such high usage. I was at a couple of Little League games that particular week, and just mothers who said there's absolutely no way. They were getting in their cars and driving a few kids to, you know, whatever the closest, like, Round Table or whatever it was. They're on Portola just to try to get the kids to a restroom that they felt was suitable. So, you know, that's something that I think that we should be really cognizant of. This is a more of a general statement here regarding...
Let's not stray too far. Huh?
I won't. I'm kind of sticking to that park ambassador phrase, and this is the end of my comment here. But, you know, we've talked about the Lake Forest Leadership Academy and how to get residents more involved in the community, and we've mentioned we only have so many commissions and things like that. How can residents be involved? I think that if there was an opportunity to try to develop a park ambassador program that's mainly just volunteers who could be, they grab their neighborhood park.
This is going to be terrific for general
yeah.
comments, but I don't think it's appropriate.
Well, so it just, the park ambassador comment got brought up, so that's why I just wanted to throw that idea out. I've mentioned it to city staff in the past, but I just felt like
it's a great idea and should come in supported in comments, but right now we're trying to get through the agenda. So, did you want to make a motion?
Motion to, move motion.
Do we have a second?
That's item number 11.
That was 11. Yeah. Item 16.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Voigt's, I think I need to, there it is. That motion carries unanimously.
This is Councilman Robinson's anniversary, so I'm trying to move it along as quickly as I can.
Happy anniversary.
So he can get home.
I appreciate that. It was my fault that we added the 3 minutes, so I know I was the deciding vote there, but so my wife will blame me.
I hope your wife isn't watching on Facebook.
Oh, well, I hope she's not either.
16, pulled by?
Yeah, that was pulled by me. I just had a quick question on staff report, page 320. There's a report that talks about some of the intersections and the findings that had been uncovered with the evaluation. And I noticed rank number 3 was the El Toro Rockfield intersection. 2016, the accident count was 7. In 2015, the accident count was 3. So it's a small number, but it's more than doubled. And I know it's still within the range of, safety, but I just wanted to know if you had any thoughts about what's occurring there. Is it the same accident, or is it just random, and that's why it didn't really get put under consideration for an amendment for the intersection?
I'll attempt, but Mr. Dave Rogers is here with more exact details. I'll ask Dave to come up, but if it was patterned, then we'd be doing something about it.
Correct.
Well, why don't you tell a little bit about the accident program?
Yes. This is your first ever, as far as I know, your annual collision review based on some software that the city was able to purchase and download some data from the last 10 years, and this is part of an ongoing analysis that we'll be doing once a year, but staff also keeps an eye on the collision reports as they come through to see if we see anything in an interim. What Mayor Pro Tem Basil pointed out is that we had data in there from 2015 as well as the study year 2016, and there was an increase in total number of collisions from 3 to 7 for that particular intersection. As part of any annual review, any intersections that hit that list, I do an analysis of each of them to see if there's a pattern or trend that may exist within that. In this case, for El Toro at Rockfield, the collisions were somewhat random, different directions. Nothing stood out for me in particular. That's why we didn't do any more in-depth study. As she pointed out, both of those numbers, 3 and 7, are considered within expected ranges of total numbers of collision as well as the rate. I did do a little bit of follow-up. We had a quick conversation. We looked at the accident data that we have through 2017, which we think is almost complete.
that number appears to have gone down again closer to the 3 number, very minor collisions. So it's just the random nature of collisions, the human element that gets involved in there, and so it is something we look at again every year, and I do a very good analysis, I believe, a very good analysis of each of the intersections that comes as part of this report to see whether or not there's something that should be studied in additional depth. In this case, we didn't think that particular one needed that additional depth, but again, we'll keep doing this on an annual basis going forward.
It's helpful for you to outline 2017's number because it wasn't in this report, so it helps to really get a good perspective of, you know, the accident ratios, and it just seemed to be a real true anomaly for that 1 year. So
correct.
You answered my question. Thank you. And I'll move the item.
Second. Item 17.
That was me. I just want to say that SB1 was our gas tax for the state of California was enacted in 2017 by the great idea of our state governor, Jerry Brown, to raise over $5 billion on the backs of taxpayers. I think it's wrong to raise taxes for these cities that don't take care of their own. In Lake Forest, we have the money to do our own slurry seals, and I think that it was wrong for us to raise taxes at the tune of $5 billion for the state annually, 12 cents per gallon, 20 cents for diesel trucks and cars. So I just wanted to make the statement that I was opposed to SB1, and I still stand opposed to SB1 because we pay for our own here in Lake Forest. So I'll move the item.
Second. Vote, please.
That motion carries unanimously.
All right. Well, you know, I made a mistake, which my wife will be tickled pink to hear if she's watching on Facebook Live. Item 17 ended on my page here, and I didn't realize I wanted to pull item 19. So having made the error of not pulling 19, can I re-pull it, or am I stuck having pulled it?
I'll move to reconsider item 19.
Okay. Thank you. I'll second it. Do we vote on that? Okay. Please vote. My wife is smiling. I can see her now. So you made a mistake and you had to admit it.
Good thing you caught that.
Oh, when I get home, believe me, I'm going to pay for that. Anyhow, here's a contract. We're splitting it 3 ways, $250,000 a pop, and I understand the rationale, and that's a good rationale. And then I see one of those companies is a Lake Forest company. So maybe we could give the Lake Forest company $500,000 and just add one other person. Otherwise, I'd like to keep the money here in town instead of giving it to 2 companies out of the city and 1 company in the city having to share equally. So, does anybody else want to keep the money in Lake Forest?
I do.
And could we simply ask you, rather than tell us to make the decision to you, to re-divvy that up so that Lake Forest gets a better proportion of the money?
If you wouldn't mind, if our Public Works Director just briefly speak to this item.
If I may, Mayor and Councilmembers, I definitely hear you. In this particular case, Rick Engineering is a very small company and has a very small presence in Lake Forest. Generally, we use them. Their strength is traffic engineering, and there's a few projects that are certainly well-versed for that. We've got 30 projects in our CIP. Rick Engineering, most of their work would be done in San Diego. There's some work that they do up here, kind of specialized in somewhat of a nature. That's why we wanted to spread it out a little bit so we have the ability to pick and choose the companies that are best suited for the particular projects, and then also the companies that aren't overwhelmed and with certain projects at certain times. We'll certainly, understanding and hearing your view, try to keep it here. We've used Rick in the past, and they've performed great for us. We've had some on-call traffic engineers several years ago that worked for them, but it's a relatively small and limited company here, so adding more, if we can give them more and they can grow their presence, we will certainly come back to council if we need to enlarge this, but this will get us going in the capital project. So that's why we did it the way we did it.
But maybe if we gave them more, they'd have a bigger presence.
We can do that, too.
I don't want to hurt the service delivery. I don't want you to hurt it. On the other hand, I would want to see more money flowing to Lake Forest without hurting the service delivery.
Yeah, and I think we can try to do that and take that into consideration as we plan these projects out. But we really want to obviously deliver the best projects for the best price for the residents, and if we can do that using them, we'll certainly look to them first.
So I concur with Mayor Gardner. I think that Lake Forest comes first, but the fact is, someone that comes from the construction industry, you have people that specialize in certain aspects of the construction for roads, and so. If you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make a substitute motion that we take staff recommendation on item number 19 and move item 19 as is, staff recommendation. But with the idea of trying to get Rick in the future any extra that we can.
Oh, do we have a second from someone who doesn't want to give money to Lake Forest? Not hearing a second. Yeah, I think the point is, and maybe we can pass it, the point is, if you can, without harming your service delivery, we'd like you to take into consideration it's a Lake Forest business, give them more money. Feel free to come back to us in the not-too-distant future and say we've managed to give them an extra $100,000 and we're taking $100,000 away. But I don't want to handcuff you today and make you do something that's going to hurt the service delivery. But going forward, use them whenever you can, as much as you can, and if you have to come back to us, we'll reallocate. So then I'll second your motion with that understanding.
I'll take that as a friendly amendment, accept that as a friendly amendment. And
I just have a couple comments here, and I won't take very long because I want to get out of here like everybody else. I think there's definitely a lot of value in trying to make sure that Lake Forest-based businesses get business from the city. You mentioned they're relatively small. What are we talking about size-wise? Just real briefly.
They're headquartered out of San Diego. Okay. They've got maybe, I think, 4 or 5 people in their office up here. They don't do a lot of the heavy design work and stuff. A lot of it would be done in San Diego.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And, as I'm looking at the hourly rates, of the 3 that we selected, there's 4 different categories here: project manager, project engineer, design engineer, traffic engineer. There are varying prices, but on average they seem to be higher than the rest. And so, you mentioned there's some specialized services that they may provide. That would make sense why they might be more expensive than someone else. They have some expertise. But, I want to be really careful about what we do in making sure that for the services that we're getting, that, yeah, we definitely want to hire Lake Forest businesses when we can, but I don't think we want to do it at the expense of Lake Forest taxpayers and the amount that they're going to have to pay. So I think we should look at each one on a case-by-case basis, and I think we all agree with that. So, I support the motion, and I think that's a good way of going right now. But, there's always a lot more than just one factor. So if it was company headquartered here and it was this is a large contract, no doubt, but I want to look at all the factors, not just one. So, thanks.
So just a clarification, that wasn't really a Lake Forest business, it's a San Diego business.
I'd say it's a combination of both.
All right. The motion I call.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. So.
That motion carries unanimously.
All right, discussion action items. Number 20 has been done. Number 21 is awarding construction contracts for the Lake Forest Civic Center campus. Whoa.
Mayor and members of the council, we have a staff report from Assistant City Manager Keith Neves.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council.
I say former Mayor Teddimer is here, and it started with him, and I'm sure he's happy to see this moving forward.
It certainly did. He was one who approved the Opportunity Study Area, so he is part of this that's going on tonight, and it's been a long time. This started back in around 2008, so we are finally to the point where we are recommending approving the 22 contracts tonight for the Civic Center campus. We have approved other contracts going on, the rough grading, the street construction, the parking deck, but this is kind of the Civic Center campus that you'll see. So what I'll do is I'll go through a short PowerPoint. I'll kind of go through it a little quicker because we still have some more items going. It's been a long meeting. And then to the questions. So just a little short history. We have brought before the City Council over the last 2 years, since 2016, certain not contracts, but certain milestones. Let me get the. It's been a long evening. Certain milestones. Program design. We started with program and design concept. We brought back to you. You approved schematic design, design development. We brought you construction documents just less than a year ago, and now here we are with the 22 construction contracts to actually build the Civic Center campus. Just a couple pictures we'll go through of the campus and renderings of the campus and what it's going to look like. Here is the Lake Forest Civic Center as a whole. Next one is the Civic Plaza, Senior Center, Plaza, courtyard, parking deck entrance, Community Center, courtyard, Community Center, Conference Center, Community Center, interior courtyard.
Could you go back one, please? What was that one? The conference. Okay.
That is the
Conference Center.
Conference Center, Community Center. Then there's the Community Center courtyard that is in between the Conference Center and the Community Center. And of course the Council Chamber / Performing Arts Theater, and then the City Hall itself, the administrative building, and then the policing center that's within the administrative building. And then the Lake Forest Civic Center master plan. So we're just kind of walking you. This is the Civic Center campus that these 22 contracts will build. Now, moving forward, budget. Council always likes to see the numbers, where we're at, where we're going. Council approved in the 2017-2019 CIP last summer, summer of 2017, the $71,769,200 budget. And with these $56,783,000 worth of contracts, as you see, we will come within the original budget that the City Council has approved in the 2017-2019 CIP. And this is just kind of a breakdown of the project components, breakdown of the budget, and where we're at today. A couple things I didn't put in here. We do have a couple grants that we are getting. We have the grant that I brought before you, I don't know, it was probably a month and a half, 2 months ago, with the MRSC grant. That is going to fund the charging stations. That was about $106,000, $107,000. We also had grant money that was in the city for very long, some PEG funds from franchise fees from Cox Communication and AT&T. We have about $950,000. That can only be used specifically for the council chambers and the video and the technology that's going in there, so that we could ultimately have council, live council meetings on Cox Communication, AT&T, and TV, and so forth and so on. So there's about $950,000 there. And then, of course, within this project component, we did grade the entire. We did the self-help in the developer agreement. We graded the entire site, and we also are building the extension on Civic Center Drive. That is 100% reimbursable from the owner, and the current owner is Lennar Homes.
On that, the grant, the MR for the charging station, how much was that worth, that grant?
That's about $106,000.
106. And on top of the parking structure, you had solar panels going up. Was there any grants that we got in for the solar?
Not at this moment. We're still looking. We still have time. You know, as this gets erected over the next 520 days, we can still go out and search out other types of grants. Southern California Edison had a grant that we're reaching out and seeing if that will fit into this, and maybe we can grab some money from them. But we'll do all we can to grab any money that we see out there that's either for a grant or some other money and try to reduce the cost. Now, just a reminder that this is all from impact fees, nothing coming from the general fund. So it's impact fees being brought in from the original 5 OSA developers and the 3 other projects that were approved by the City Council for those other 3 home projects. So none of this will be off the burden of the general fund, and it will be built and paid for debt-free. Oops, go back. Just a reminder of the method of construction on this project. It was a multi-prime delivery method. The bids were separated into 22 packages based on construction trading groups. We did that at the start of the project and brought on Bernard specifically to do that. What that does is we did not hire a general contractor, and a general contractor would have subbed this all out and added a 10 to 15% on each of those subs. We're acting as the general contractor, so we're saving that money on the Civic Center project. One thing in the staff report, the bid package number 9, the elevator, we are asking you to approve all 22 packages tonight. We have signed copies from 21. The only one we don't have a signed copy yet is for the number 9 elevator, and it's waiting for signature, and it should be here, just not here tonight. So, you know, when I give the recommendation a little later on, I'm going to ask you to approve all 22 and let the city manager approve that number 9 contract for the elevator. I'll go back. All the bids were reviewed by Bernard's, our construction manager. They're sitting in the audience tonight. Red Brick Consulting, Greg Powers from Red Brick Consulting, and then, of course, staff. So if we have any questions on any of the contracts tonight, at the end of the PowerPoint presentation, they can come up and speak to them. And, of course, the contracts total is $56,743,851. Moving forward, after these contracts, within that $72 million budget number you saw, we still have maybe about a couple more contracts to approve. Today, we just opened up the slope mitigation area contract. Estimated budget on that is about $903. It might come in a little lower. The bids came in really well today when we opened them up. We've got to go do our due diligence and look at them and make sure everything's right on it. So we opened up that one today. At the next council meeting, you'll see the furniture, fixture, and equipment contract come to you. And then also later in June, you'll see the low voltage technology contracts come to you. And then there might be a few various smaller contracts that need to come back. They will fit all within our budgeted number. One of those is maybe some moving expense, moving out of this building, moving into the new buildings. But those are a little down the line, 12 months, 14 months down the line. Little timeline moving forward. The rough grading is completed. That was completed in January. Parking deck structure is in progress, and mid-May it will be completed. Street utilities project, the extension of Civic Center Drive is late May, early June is the timeline on the current timeline on what they've given us when they're going to complete the project. I don't know who's gone out and looked at the site yet, but that parking deck structure is almost done. And then, of course, the Civic Center campus, pending approval tonight of the contracts, you're looking around September 2019.
How close to the parking structure are we done? They cinched that up yet?
It's just about finished there. The solar panels are on. I've seen the light structures on top are on. They're finishing up the ramp going down the back, and then the staircasing by the elevator. The stairs coming down from the second deck into the plaza.
So those solar panels on the deck out there, those are for the City Hall or the Senior Center, or?
Those solar panels will bring enough energy for the parking deck structure, the senior center, and the community center is what the estimated power hour, coming out of them will be. It will not power the Performing Arts Council Chamber or the administrative building.
So do we have backup ability at the police services building and city hall for an event of emergency?
Yes, there's an emergency generator in the parking lot at the administrative building on the other side in that parking lot. So tonight, staff's recommendations is approve the contract documents for the construction of the Civic Center campus, award 22 contracts for the Civic Center campus construction in the total amount of $56,743,851.
Any questions?
With that, I will take questions. We do have Bernard's, our construction manager, in the audience. We have Greg Powers from Red Brick Consulting. He's our owner's rep that we brought on board. We have Linda Zubiet from Carrier Johnson that will answer any questions. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the city manager, and then we'll turn it to city council.
Any questions? Did we have any questions from the public?
No, Your Honor.
Any questions from Facebook? No? Any questions from my colleagues? Councilman Robinson?
Just real quick, so $56,700,000 roughly. Does this equate to the $60 million number in the budget? Are those one for one, or is there anything additional that would... So basically, how are we doing according to budget on this $56 million expenditure?
That is what... Those have been very close to the engineering estimates we've had for the last 2 years. Over the last 2 years, we have... Both Bernard's and Carrier Johnson, through Cummings Engineering, have given us engineering estimates as we've gone through each milestone. So, yes, that has come within the engineering estimate, and it's within the budget we have in the 2-year CIP.
Okay, so was what I'm trying to get at was the budget for this like $56,700,000, or is this the $60 million number that we approved?
Well, if you're looking in the $60 million, this is just broken down by kind of categories. That $60 million includes this 56 million, 56 plus, 57. Plus, on each of these, like the Bernard's contract, they had so much for going through each phase and then so much for construction. The architecture had, designing the whole thing, and then they have about $500,000 for construction support as we go through construction. So if you look at the $60 million number I had in the staff report, yes, this fits all into the $60 million.
Okay, so we're kind of on target.
We
not
are on
necessarily, below or above, but we're
No,
on target.
we're pretty much on target where the engineering cost estimates came out to be.
Okay. And
so we won't need to, not that I know now, there's a lot that can happen from now until the end of this project. But with the estimates we have, the budgets, what we have finished so far, it looks like we should come within budget.
Great, okay. And then if our owner's rep could come to the mic and just give me very brief, because I still want to see my wife while it's still our anniversary, but just a very brief how you think we're doing. We hired you as the owner's rep, and I appreciate the service you're providing, so I just want to hear what you think so far.
I think we're doing very well. We spent some time investigating before we went out to bid, looking at all the different scopes to make sure the scopes didn't have gaps in them, and reviewing the documents to make sure that we could address all the potential issues that would come into the program. And when the bids came in very, very close to what the engineer's estimate was. Engineer's estimate was $56,420,000, and it came in at $56,750,000 or 743. So it's very, very, very close on a scheme of $56 million. So I think the team's doing very well, and we're keeping a good track on it, and I think it's got a good team in place.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Go ahead. I'm so glad that we brought you on. The fact that we brought you on because we just wanted to safeguard, not that we distrust our staff or the contractor, but just another set of eyes out there, because we saw how some municipalities let their civic centers get away from them, and it came back to bite them. And I'm glad that we have the reassurance that your eyes are looking on, along with our staff and the contractors that we've hired. And so I think he's doing a wonderful job, and I want to say thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
I actually didn't have a question for you specifically, but I did have something that's just been needling at me, and I know we had mentioned it before. I'm looking at the overview of the Civic Center Plaza, and it shows a car, coming around the circle, and, it's so pretty. And then I look over and I see the senior center, and it's right there. And for some reason, the thing that keeps getting me is that curb, that that goes around when the cars are dropping off. I'm so concerned about senior citizens getting out of the vehicle and falling. And maybe it sounds silly, but I've seen it happen so many times. I used to live right by a store where it was like 80% were senior citizens. And between reaching at the top shelves and grabbing stuff for them and pretty much being their personal shoppers, every week I went there was somebody tripping over a parking curb. And it seems inconsequential. I mean, for us, we would know not to step on it. But there are a lot of seniors that either have vision problems or balance problems, and I don't know if it's too late. I had mentioned it maybe 6 months ago about possibly just taking that curb out and just making it a straight, where if they have a wheelchair, they can just roll right in.
Why don't I bring up Linda from Carrier Johnson and talk to you about this?
I'm Linda Zibiotti, and I've been with the project since the beginning, and it's a very good question, and we've answered it. If you see it from there, it's an artistic rendering, but we're very conscious of that and the placement of the senior center. It's basically straight there, because we were very much aware, and I think it came up in a previous to the seniors, because that is their drop-off, and that is their pickup, and flat there, they will be able, and it's also demarked per ADA also. They will know that they are entering into a traffic area also in the circle.
Okay, thank you. I was just
You're welcome.
concerned.
While you're there, can you please, when we go back to this clock tower, I know there was discussion, we've had so many discussions. Did we authorize a ham radio on top of the bell tower? Is that something we authorized?
I believe we did.
Yes. There is appropriation for a tower, or the ham tower antenna. And the antenna is placed in the far back area where we have some of the equipment that is in one of the areas, so it wasn't in the front, and it's near the community center toward the back of the site. It does go up 30 feet up in the air, so visibly it won't be visible from the front, but it will be able to accommodate what is necessary for the ham radio operators.
They'll be thrilled, because just a few months ago, we authorized the City of Lake Forest to go forward with a search program, and so they're going to be excited to hear that we're going to be having that antenna up there, so it's something I forgot to brag about.
The structure and everything is appropriated for that, and we've detailed it out.
And a reminder, that's in, like Linda said, it's in the community center. It's not in the administrative building. It's over, and there'll be a room in the community center that they can have their equipment in a closet, and the antenna, like she said, it reaches 30 feet high, and it doesn't stick out in the civic center. We kind of put it back in the corner.
So it won't be on the clock tower?
It will not be on the clock
No, it will
tower.
not be on the clock tower.
No.
Yeah, I know we talked about it, and I couldn't remember where we had put it, but I remember talking about it, so thank you so much for your diligence. And
At this point, it's 9:30, and that's our agreed upon time to leave. And
I make a motion, we adjourn in the respect of an anniversary by Councilman Robinson.
We would need to approve these contracts before we adjourn anywhere, because this will slow down the civic center project.
Yeah, I was assuming we were going to continue, but let's I know.
I make a
No,
motion.
just hold that for a second, and let's approve this, and then we could do that.
Make a motion that we approve staff recommendation.
Second.
Contracts.
Okay, vote, please. And congratulations, I mean, on schedule, on time, that's very impressive.
In budget.
Just a reminder, it's on schedule on time, but we do have another winter to go through. It could be a rainy winter.
No,
this is
we
520
don't.
days.
No excuses, no.
We don't want to hear
Cry right now, so we can go back to this point in time.
No bonus for you. No way. Did
That motion
pass?
carried unanimously. I'm sorry, yes.
Then, now being 9 o'clock, 9:30, the witching hour, we are required to close unless there's a motion to continue.
I'll make a motion that we close, and I would just like to know how many years, Mr. Robinson?
It's 19 years, so.
Oh, that was a good test. If your wife is watching,
I
you're
know she's watching.
thumbs up.
Like I said, I hope she's not. And please don't adjourn on account of me. I mean, I've already, miss dinner. So it's, you know, we're here to do the people's business, and she would appreciate the fact that, you know, I'm trying to represent the residents of Lake Forest the best I can. So that includes her.
Is there a second? You second it? All right. Please vote.
That motion carries with Councilmember Robinson abstained.
All right, do you want to do your council comments, or shall we put them off as well?
I submitted a speaker request.
Oh.
So we have 2 speaker requests for item 22.
Would you like to, or could you come back as we bring it for?
Come back, so I'd like to speak on it tonight.
Yeah, that's okay. How many are there?
We have 2, Your Honor. So the speakers are Mark Murphy, followed by Randy Johnson.
Okay.
Randy Johnson.
Well, thank you for indulging me, folks. You know, I might not be able to show up to the next meeting when you discuss this, so it's kind of an important item here. And it has to do with redistricting, of course, item 22. And, you know, this whole situation is very confusing to me. In fact, it's mind-boggling to me to try to keep up. And I'm an engaged citizen. I'm an engaged citizen, and really, it changes all the time, and now you want to change it again. You want to go to, or discuss going to a different formulation 6 months before the election, you know? And you know, if I can't absorb this stuff, think about the citizens of Lake Forest. You think they can? You know? I mean, all I know is that I had 4 of my 5 votes eliminated by Basil, Gardner, and Robinson. You took my votes away from me without allowing me to go to the ballot box to vote on it. It's my votes. I served in the armed forces for the exact purpose of being able to vote, and you took 4 of my 5 votes away from me. God, really, and you talk about respect. Let's go back to the topic of respect here, all right? Now, first of all, I don't even know where you folks live, okay? So I don't know which districts you're assigned to. I went to the city website. I couldn't find anything. I don't know where you live. Could you tell us which districts you live in so we have an idea of what we're talking about here? Is that possible? And, you know, to my knowledge, this has already been resolved. We talked about this. You had the districts. It's settled, okay? Why are we doing this again? Is this a political strategy on somebody's part to get a political advantage? And so now we're bringing this back before the council and going through all this rigmarole again, confusing people even more? Is this what it's all about? Is it about a competitive political advantage? And if it is, it's disgusting that somebody would put their own selfish needs in front of the citizens of Lake Forest. So, again, this is so confusing to me, so short before the election time. I think this should be tabled, thrown out, whatever, okay? So please consider that. Consider us instead of yourselves. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming. We'll see you later.
Mr. Mayor, just real quick, I was hoping that we could adjourn in memory of First Lady Barbara Bush, who passed away today. And, you know, it's my anniversary. Our spouses put up with so much. She's one that devoted her life to public service, really as support to her husband and to her sons. And so would like to adjourn in memory of First Lady Barbara Bush.
Thank you for bringing that up.